Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to VTM meeting, which is a particular meeting, of course, given all the protocols and the fact that we can't fill up a theater. It's a different version from what had to be the VTM meeting this year. The VTM meeting will be pushed to next year. But this, since VTM wanted to keep it going, is a particular session which will take place here in the Regio Theatre in Turin, where we have 200 people with a proper distanciation, but we are also connected with all the world in streaming. And so, good morning to you here, and good morning to everybody that's following us all over the world. It's a particular morning, a lot of contents, a lot of news, information, and the view about the future, which is the thing that interests us most. But to begin our day of works here, we have 4 institutional welcomes. So please, Fabrizio Ricca is the first one, Region of Torino, Minister for the it's really hard to say, Internationalization. It would be a little easier in Italian. Good morning, Mr. Ricca, please.
Good morning. I'm sorry. Good morning to everybody. Buongiorno a tutti.
Good day to you all. Good day to those of you who are here and those who are following us on the YouTube channel of our event after so many months of webinars where we'd only see each other through our computer screens. We're at long last working again, one before the other in person, and we've gone back to doing what we like to do best, that is to meet directly and provide all the information that will help us move ahead into the future. For us, it's an event we're doubly proud of because it's the first of our business conventions organized after COVID-19, the lockdown for COVID-19. It's the first time we're here in person, and despite social distancing and our face masks, we really want to get back to work and our normality. I'd like to thank ABE, that's the organizer of the event, the Chamber of Commerce of Turin and Turin and Cuneo, Piemonte, for involving our enterprises, and without their constant work, this event wouldn't have been possible. President of Pierpaolo Antonioli, I can't stop thanking him for all the work he's done over these years to, once again this year, be able to succeed in meeting this important objective. And our sponsor companies, Intesa San Paolo, FCA Industrial Partner, that accompanied us up to the 2021 event and have supported us in the past, too. In 2018, we have 60 international and Italian buyers present here with about 141 SMEs, half of which are Piedmontese. They've been able to take part free of charge in this event thanks to the integrated funds of the Fund of 2020. But we're not stopping at this point, because after this important session, which we hope will be the last of the events with so few participants, but I'd give you the date of 31st of March here in Turin for the next edition of VTM. Thank you, and the best of work to you today.
On the stage, the mayor of the city of Turin, Chiara Appendino. Please, Mrs. Appendino.
So first of all, thanks. Welcome to Turin, to all. Thank you for being here. Thanks to all the sponsors, the region, CHAPE, everybody that organized this event. So I'll pass to Italian. E grazie ovviamente al Teatro Regio.
And obviously thanks to the Teatro Regio hosting us here today. I'd start from a fact. In July 2020, Italy, for the first time, became part of the KPMG index that assesses all countries. And in this index, Italy is indicated as a country that at long last is starting to invest in autonomous driving. And this success for Italy focuses on a city and a region that is an example that's recognized as being the driver of what's happening, and that is Turin, thanks to the testing of autonomous driving in urban contexts. And the second test that's underway at the ILO, where we have fourth level autonomous driving being tested, that is driverless vehicles. Why do I start from this aspect of autonomous driving? Well, I think because it's a concrete example of what it means to meet the challenges of mobility, the challenges of the future. We already had a fairly clear idea of this before COVID, and all of us in this region were well aware of it. But with COVID, all this has been accelerated. It's a change that's not just a technological revolution. When we talk about autonomous drive, we know that there's a lot of concrete innovation, 5G, etc. But it's a revolution also in the way we're moving our mobility, the way we experience our cities. And so in this way, cities come to have a fundamental role in supporting a revolution that must necessarily include individuals, must include the training systems, must include the supply chains that support, for instance, the automotive industry. And these challenges can only be accepted and won if we all work together. Now, we're certainly going towards amazing changes, not just mobility, sustainable mobility, mobility as a service, integrated mobility. Think of the concept of property, how it's going to change. Mobility understood more as an integrated service. And so let me close by going back to autonomous driving, where I think this region as a whole has had successes that have been acknowledged by independent actors. There were 5 actors, collaboration between private and public sectors. The public sector needs the private sector that can build technology. The private needs the public to create the infrastructure, a city that's ready to test the technology. A simpler, more streamlined regulatory system, that is, our road legislation must be up to date. We have to institutions that collaborate, a strong supply chain at an industrial level, and then competences, skills, so universities and specialists. And our territory, our region is facing great challenges. The Center of Artificial Intelligence that we'll be having here in Turin, thanks to the collaboration of many. And I'm sure Dario will talk about this later in at TNE in the Mirafiori area. There's going to be a center that will bring together companies, educational systems, schools, and all the different players of the supply chain all working together. And I think that's only in this way that risks will become opportunities. Thanks to you all and good work.
Thank you to Mayor Appendino. Let me call the President of the Torino Chamber of Commerce, Dario Gallina. Morning.
Good morning everyone, welcome to Torino, welcome to VTM. Grazie a tutti, è un piacere.
Thanks to you all, and thank you. It's a great pleasure to open this rather unusual VTM event, but we're delighted as Chamber of Commerce of Turin because the 2018 edition had gone very well, and Minister Ricca gave you today's figures, but I'd like to remind you that the 2018 event had 1,300 participants, more than 1,500 B2B meetings. And so on the basis of this enthusiasm, we'd been working on this edition, this year's edition, for many months, but we've had to change it. But despite that, we're here today for this rather unusual 2020 edition. So I thank all the organizers, and especially the sponsors, the guests, the buyers, and the local enterprises and businesses. Thank you to all of those who are present here today, also those who are following us through the YouTube channel. The commitment of the Chamber of Commerce in the automotive industry, as the mayor said. I mean, we already, before the pandemic, we were already experiencing a great revolution. We've heard about some of the main topics, but the great transformation towards electrification, autonomous driving. Just imagine all the challenges, hydrogen, for instance, all these challenges lie ahead. And so in an industry that in Piedmont is worth, we have more than 34% of the Italian components industry here, 40% of the total turnover. So imagine how important this is and how important this industry must be for our region. And as it already been said, it's years now we've been working on very important projects that support all our businesses, mainly the automotive businesses. The project, for instance, that was mentioned earlier, the Manufacturing Technology Center project, it's a great manufacturing city that will be built in Mirafiori, together with another great investment in the aerospace industry. And it's here that the new technologies of the automotive sector, the training of skills and competencies will all be gathered together with the businesses, together with the university, the polytechnic. This great mix of competences will develop here. Moreover, the Italian government has decided to assign the Italian Research for Automotive matters here in Turin. And then there's the last, most recent announcement of having here in Turin the National Institute for Artificial Intelligence. These are all essential initiatives, but we have to speed up. There's a lot to work on, and our priority is to focus on the automotive amongst other industries. This is very important because technology and training, especially thanks to the great regional and international players, will be able to drive the whole supply chain and the many small and medium-sized businesses that have a great tradition in the automotive industry, and we're trying to support to the best of our possibilities. So thank you all, good work to you all, and have a great VTM.
Dario Gallina, please, can you join me here on the stage, the President of Cuneo Chamber of Commerce, Mauro Gola. Good morning, Mr. Gola.
Buongiorno, Dottor Gola.
Good morning and welcome everyone. Sono davvero molto
I'm truly very happy to be able to address you on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce of Cuneo at this event that is of international relevance and that celebrates, as is rightfully the case today, the capital of mobility. And this after another important day in which another leading-edge project was presented, confirming yet again how much private initiative is the real driver of innovation. It's not something that comes from incentives. It's not something that arrives top-down, but it's that ability to innovate thanks to our enterprises, the main players at this particular moment in history. The history and the future of our region meet here in the capital of automobiles, where yesterday we inaugurated the vehicle to grid infrastructure that FCA, NG, PS, and Terna partnered in, and which, once completed, will be the biggest ever hub of this sort. Automobiles must be and are the focus of our industrial system, a system in which there is a great dynamism thanks to leading-edge digital research, advanced autonomous driving, hybrid transport, And therefore, this gives us new opportunities in terms of innovation and new markets. And so our drive towards future starts here today in Turin.
Thank you, Mr. Gola. And now we can start the works. Let me mention again our sponsors and the organizer. The organizer is ABE, Advanced Business Events, with a collaboration of the Piemonte Agency, and the main sponsor.
Collaboration of the Chamber of Commerce of Turin, of Cuneo, and all the others.
Plenty supporting the VTM event of this year, which of course, comes in a very special year. We know we've been living through this COVID pandemic for a long time, and God knows when we will walk out. But I have to say that, like in all other areas, also in the automotive area, people have kept working. You know, a virus can stop people, can stop moving around, but can't stop ideas, can't stop projects, developments. So there are a lot of very interesting new things that the people here in Teatro Regio and the people all over the world will know about today. Let me just mention the agenda. There will be 2 keynote speakers at the beginning and then 2 panels. The first one dedicated to the companies that produce the vehicles, so the manufacturing of vehicles, and the second one dedicated to the supply chain. We have 9 people in the supply chain, so it's going to be quite long, but it's going to be interesting because there are going to be a lot of different viewpoints, your point of view, but also from a lifestyle point of view, and I think Chris probably knows about that if he decided to come and live in Clevisana. This was the first keynote speech. There's a second one. Let me please call Pietro Gorlier here on the podium. Pietro entered the Fiat Group in 1989 as a market analyst, and then joined Fiat Group Automotive in 2006 in the network development. Now he is the COO, Chief Operating Officer of EMEA FCA, and the keynote speech is about From Automotive to Mobility, a multi-players transformation. Good morning.
Thank you, Carlo. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Obviously, always tough to come on stage after a designer. That's the worst experience ever. We will try to make some numbers becoming emotional for everyone. Thank you. And I think that obviously when we talk about transportation, cars, the main news is that today we talk about mobility. So I think most of the companies are currently trying to rebrand itself as mobility companies rather than automotive company. And I think that it goes very well with what Chris just said, how this industry, but particularly the customer base, is changing. So I'm going to try to give you some numbers. I'm not a designer, so by definition, I start from numbers and then trying to understand the transformation we are living in, trying to match the transformation and the challenges that we have in front of us in terms of how we change what we are doing as car makers and as or mobility providers and as suppliers, and then offering some recipe for the future. So let's start with some data. Why we are here talking about automotive, why automotive keeps being so important for everyone, particularly I'm from Turin, so obviously my dad spent 35 years at Fiat. I just recently, overcome the 31st year with the company, so I have quite a big investment in this sector, and obviously also in the company I work for. So big investment, always like that, has always been like that. The level of investment in the automotive sector is the large part of investment of the European Union by far. Is 7% of the EU GDP, and if you project that on a worldwide scale, you will find similar number. We pay a lot of taxes overall, altogether. Every car generates 440 billion euros of taxes every year. but is not a zero-sum game. I mean, only 2% of the public investments are on the infrastructure, and I think Chris just showed some pictures of what are the challenges that we face every day driving our cars, and the same challenges will be faced by autonomous driven cars. I mean, still, unless they fly, and that may be a solution, and for sure we will get there. This is a very complicated slide, but to say that I think we all share the need to reduce emissions, and as car makers, we don't have a choice. I mean, the decision has been taken from the regulators. This is the curve. You see the blue side of the curve is the reduction in emissions that we had in the last 20 years. Significant, more than 50% reduction in emission is not enough, and it will be a similar. We will see a similar trend in the next few years, because we have targets that are currently predicting that in 2030 we should reduce furthermore the emission of our vehicles of about 37.5%. And actually yesterday the European Union has started talking about elevating that target to 50%. That, by the way, that's a problem, because every year the targets are changing, and when you have to try to plan the future, that is not probably the easiest environment that we need to live in. So we will definitely, as car makers, reduce the emission of our vehicles with in many different ways, improving the emissions of the combustion engines, making them almost all either full electric or somewhat electrified, and we don't have a choice. This is something that I keep repeating. Very often we discuss with authorities, regulators, and there is this perception that the automotive industry doesn't want to change, right? That we are not interested to improve because we see the transformation and transition to electricity as an additional cost because customers are ready. Well, we don't have a choice, so we will. I mean, the fines associated to those targets are so high that nobody can afford not to reduce emissions. So our cars will meet those requirements. Obviously, they cannot do, and they cannot do properly. We cannot do it properly if we are not in the proper environment. You see the numbers. I mean, because we are in Turin and in Italy. Turin actually is a city with decent, I mean, compared to the standards level of charging, public charging station, but still not enough. I mean, in Italy itself, in 2025, we will need 170,000 public charging stations to support the cars electric cars, full electric or hybrids, that will be on the market. That will be on the market. There is, as I said, there is no choice. Those cars will be in the market because otherwise we don't meet the emission standards. Currently, we have 10,300 public charging stations. In 5 years, we need to multiply that for 17. And you see the number is if we don't create the environment. So this is why at the beginning I said it's a multiplayer game. There will be a disconnection between what we need to achieve and what is possible, and I'm going to come on that soon. And there is no doubt that we are facing something that a few years ago we couldn't imagine. This is a Roman writer, Juvenals, that a satiric that started at the beginning of about 2,000 years ago, debating about the possibility to find a black swan, and only about a couple of thousand years later, it was proved that a black swan can actually be, and actually the first two were captured in 1950, something like that. And so 2020, for many reasons, is going to be a year of where we we look at things in a different way. We are living into a terrible pandemic, and by the way, I hope everyone is safe here at home. As I think if something we learn in this moment is to talk more to people, asking and going a little bit deeper into the socialization, not in the close socialization, but at least in understanding how people feel. So we were already facing a lot of challenges, if you like, but we were facing those challenges, facing growth, I mean up and down, but still growth. We were looking at the trends, some of Chris, I think, described very well, I mean, all the things that were happening until 2020. Then in 2020, we found ourselves in a world that we didn't expect to face. I think I always talk about a little story, family story, that during the last Christmas time, my daughter had to do kind of an essay about the history of the families, the two families, mine and my wife. And so during Christmas time, she interviewed my mom and my in-laws, and so a lot of stories coming from a generation that still experienced the World War II. And we were debating about the fact that things that they saw, like challenges, being close at home, finding food, I mean, having really, is something that nobody of my generation found. And obviously we thought the new generation would have not experienced. And then 2 months later, we were stuck close at home, going with masks to buy some grocery, finding that for some reason toilet paper is disappearing, and not being able to socialize. And so I think there is a disconnection that will drive a significant change in the future, because actually what I think many people are asking whether this pandemic has slowed down change. No, I think this pandemic has accelerated change. There was more time to think. There was also more time to think about the effect of global warming and to observing also. Just the fact that you were watching some more TV and seeing what was happening, some of the images that Chris showed. And so the challenges that we are going to face are the result of a moment of discontinuity also, that is going to accelerate everything that so far we have seen. And some of these trends, I'm going to be very fast because everything that has been said by Chris, actually, I mean, internet, mobile population, socialization through social channels, home banking, I mean, buying online, that it was already popular, became the norm. I was very surprised, again, going back to my daughter, she's 13 years old, she will not be happy to use, for me to use her as an example, but I was surprised because she didn't suffer the lockdown to the level that I would have expected and that I would have suffered. And why? Social. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, she was able to socialize with friends without necessarily to see them, and she was able to play video games with friends that are now in China or in Europe or in the US. And so this is definitely an important. The technology is a consequence. I mean, this is compared to what Chris showed you. This is still the old, no? It's still the old technology. It's the 90, not the 10, but there is no doubt that when we look at the automotive industry, things are changing. Car2X, so connectivity, connection with the grid. The interiors are starting changing, and obviously they can go as far as Chris showed. The 5G is gonna support furthermore the change. There are a lot of things. Not all these things will become standard. I mean, for instance, when you look at a personal assistant, I don't know if you had a chance to sit in a car with a personal assistant. You enjoy the first 5 minutes, then you start hating this guy talking to you every 5 minutes, asking, how are you, can I do something for you? So there will be a lot of experiments, but no doubt a lot of changes that particularly the suppliers that are here are the first one to see, because we always, as car makers, we always talk to suppliers and say, do you have new ideas? You know, the typically innovation part of our job. We have a demographic that is changing. People are living longer, buy later. That's also associated, obviously, to two effects. First of all, that the car is no longer the first priority of a kid for the reason that I said before. I mean, there are other ways to socialize. At the same time, the purchasing power is moving up into later in the age of the people. So, and as a consequence also, the change between owning a car or using a car is definitely becoming the norm. You see the numbers in terms of what it is, the old way of using a car as a service, that is leasing a car, but then you go from lease, long-term, short, medium-term, short-term, share mobility, peer-to-peer mobility, and you see the trends are all in that direction. Why should I pay a garage or a parking space if I live downtown New York or if I live in a very crowded city? So these are all changes that are happening and that we are facing. It's changing also, again, talking about the demographic. Believe or not, we have to think when we design cars, and I'm pretty sure that a dog would stay very well into the car that we just saw on the screen. So 15% more dogs. So it means also creating space into a car to carry your dog with you, and really the new generations. I'm losing almost count between Gen Y, Gen Z. I mean, are thinking differently. When I look at my kids, I know that they will not be like me. They will not be like me in everything they do, and they will not be like me, particularly in the way in which they approach mobility, despite having a dad work in the car industry that maybe kind of a little bit of corruption, but I know that they will not accept, I mean, a typical, I worked for many years in the service business, and I've always told, I mean, come on, I mean, thinking that you need to tell someone to come into a dealership for service, for a software update. I mean, once we are receiving, I mean, hundreds of updates on our phones, our TVs, our PC every day online. And that goes back also to regulation. Mayor Appendino was talking about the Codice della Strada, but I think there are many regulations that needs to be updated, because obviously we have the automotive industry or the mobility industry is the most regulated, and so things that are normal in other sectors don't work very well in our. That's the perfect 9-10, so I feel that I was prepared to, I don't see Chris, but by the way, if you remove from the 10 the time that is used to look for a parking spot, the 10 becomes a much smaller number the I think there are cases where it becomes 1% the real use of the car if you remove the search for a parking portion of traveling. So we live in crowded cities. We spend a lot of time stop in traffic. So that's another thing that we can remove from the 10%. And this is something that needs to be sorted out. There is no doubt that it cannot go on like that. And we are facing new challenges as car makers. I've lost interest to debate whether it has been right or wrong to demonize the diesel. I think as car makers we probably didn't do very well in using that technology and promoting the technology. As you know, the gradual reduction of diesel has actually increased emissions because, I mean, every engineer in the room knows that diesel has a lot less CO2 emission than a gasoline engine, although there are other emissions that can be controlled. But this is happening. In few years, diesel and maybe even, generally speaking, combustion engines will no longer be able to access city centers. Whether it is right or not, it doesn't matter. It is happening, and there is nothing we can do to stop it. We are adapting. If there is an industry that is used to adapt, it's the automotive industry. We may be, at the beginning, not very fast, but then we move fast all together, suppliers and car makers. So there will be more than 100 new full electric nameplates that will be launched in the next 5 years. Obviously, I couldn't avoid to put the new 500 BEV that we are launching right now, and so the offer will be available. But when you wrap up all the things that I said together, regulation, diesel disappearing, emissions to be met, demographic changing, there is no doubt that we are facing something. Remember the kind of 2020 as a moment of disconnection between the past and the future. And there is a little problem that we need to sort out, that all these things that we have seen, electric cars, connectivity, features inside the car, have a cost, have a price. This is a bit of a list of all the things that we are putting into our cars, driving systems, even before going to autonomous driving. Safety that needs to be obviously enhanced, more efficient engines or batteries if it is an electric, connectivity, so 5G, and the microchip is always becoming more powerful, so you need to update. If you look at the average cost, MSRP is a terrible acronym for the price of a car, of a BEV average worldwide. A BEV is 11,000 euros more expensive than a normal combustion engine car. That number will be reduced in the next years. I mean, the more we buy and we make more efficient batteries, it will go down, but never at the level of a combustion engine. And in Europe, we have an even bigger problem, that 80% of our market is on small cars, because we like small cars, because we live in cities with narrow streets, in crowded spaces where it would be impossible to park a big car. And so if you take that in relative terms, it makes the cost of the electric car even more expensive. And are we prepared? Is the customer base prepared to buy a car that is 9,000 euros more expensive? So what's happening? What's happening today is that this rush to electrification that everyone is, this race that everyone is in, is driving further division. So if you look, just a simple color, green means more GDP per capita, so more household income, more electric car. So the electric car are following exactly the evolution of the wealth of the countries. So that means that if we proceed, we go ahead in that way, we will sell electric cars, but electric cars will be another element of if you like, of social division. So you have means, you buy an electric car, you don't pollute, probably you have the possibility to buy 2 cars, so you can have an electric car for the city and maybe another car when you go for a longer trip. And I think we live already in a world where there are enough reasons to socially divide people. And unfortunately, we see every day the result listening to the news. And there are other costs. Producing an electric car the production of an electric car has 20% needs of workforce. There are 40% less parts because it's a simpler car. That's good. That's, I mean, from an engineering standpoint, we are all happy. I'm not an engineer, by the way. We use less service parts, so that will impact obviously service garages, etc. One day there will be the problem of the fuel station that will eventually disappear. There are some opportunity. We can manufacture and assemble batteries. Although I tell you the labor intensity of those jobs is nothing compared to building cars or trucks. We can, at the beginning, we should actually invest a lot in charging station, but eventually that will disappear when charging station will be everywhere. We will recycle batteries. There will be new sustainable means of electricity. So, as you can see, I mean, a lot of challenges, some opportunities, but what is for sure clear to us that if we don't face these challenges with a plan, it's going to be a big problem. And I'm not talking a big problem for the suppliers or for the manufacturers. It's going to be a big problem for the society. So, 2 minutes marketing pitch, obviously what we have done at the FCA, we are investing more than 9 billion in our 5-year plan in electrification, and we are renewing essentially completely all our product portfolio with, and for every model, with electrified version, light, plug-in and heavy electrification. We are spending a lot of money here in Turin. We are spending a lot of that money in Italy. We have, as you can see, a 5 billion euros investment plan for Italy that is going to touch essentially all our plants in Italy. Let's not forget that in Italy, you represent here part of the 1,230,000 jobs that are connected to the automotive. We have a product plan, and I'm not here, well, I'm always here to sell cars, but also on behalf of many of our suppliers, but to say that all the little dots that you see with the blue leaf, the plug, green or red, these are all electrification. So as for other car makers, we will have ample offer of electrified cars. I stop a moment also to recognizing that in this pandemic we found also other ways to be to support the communities we live in. That's something I'm very proud of, and I think it's appropriate to share. I don't know how much it is known. One of the things that we have done, we have dedicated 2 of our plants to the production of protective masks. We have actually just reached the first target that was to produce 1 million masks per day. When we will complete the installation of all the machines, and that has been done in collaboration with the Protezione Civile, we will be able to produce 27 million masks per day. And the Italy as a country need is 40 million masks per day, obviously with the current conditions. So Italy will become, together with the other projects that there are, probably self-sufficient in terms of production of masks. And I think is one of the things that we need not to forget of this pandemic, that there were initiatives and actions that brought everyone together with great results. So going back to the automotive, the mobility paradigm, the Mayor talked about smart cities. I'm very proud about the project that we have launched with the city of Turin, where our plug-in hybrids are connecting to the network of the city, and when they enter downtown, they switch automatically on electric. So that will give a possibility to the plug-in hybrid to become really one of the solutions. Today, there are a lot of discussions whether we should go straight to full electrification. This is probably true from an economic standpoint, but in terms of people needing more flexibility in the use of the car, the plug-in hybrid can be a solution. With this project, you will be able to really interact with the cities and be sure that the vehicle is in full electric when it is downtown, and so can enter downtown. We've launched the V2G project that is very relevant for us with cars that will be connected to the grid and not only will be charged, but will return electricity to the grid for a power of 25 megawatt, a set of 700 cars, Fiat 500 after the production, when they stand in the parking lot to be shipped to customers. That will allow the balancing of the demand and offer of electricity, because this is another big problem. Yesterday we had this event in Mirafiori here in Turin, and the friends from Terna and EPS were explaining what is going to happen, right? I mean, just to give you 10 cars in charging at ultra-fast system, absorb the energy of a town of 1,500 people. So think about what type of demand that these electrified cars will have on the grid, and how we need absolutely to rethink the way in which we manage energy, including how we use the electric cars to provide energy when they are parked and they don't drive. This cannot be done alone. These, for instance, are all our partners. Someone is here also in the room, and it's only a common effort can sort this problem, and is a multi-phased task. I was talking about the V2G. Another thing I'm very proud of, we are transforming Mirafiori into a solar farm. We will cover, I wrote the number because I always, 180,000 square meters of solar panels on Mirafiori, including solar panels on almost 2,000 parking spots, and we'll produce 15 megawatt of sustainable energy to be used and to be given back to the grid. We are installing mobility store, leases mobility store around the country and in Europe to offer mobility as a service rather than ownership of a car. So things are changing very fast. But in conclusion, if we want to be efficient in manufacturing, for instance, we want to be connected, we want to engage customers because they have new needs. We need to do all together. There is no doubt that automotive and automakers are ready. We have to be ready. We don't have choices. But we cannot do it alone. Remember the initial slide when I was, or the number that I gave. In 2025, in Italy, we will need 170,000 public charging stations, and obviously also privates. I'm putting my charging station in my garage, and I'm lucky enough to have a private garage where I can do it. Obviously, we offer to our customer services, but you need to go through several different steps. Where it is something public, it becomes even more complicated. So what's going to happen if in 2 years we have to sell 100,000, 200,000 electric cars, and every other car maker the same, but the customer will be scared to buy a car. So we need a 3-ways plan altogether with accessibility and technical feasibility of the things that we need to do, and that's easy because we are used to do, particularly in this with the people that is in this room. We need social inclusion, because if we don't consider that, electric cars will become. By the way, it's also wrong to talk electric cars, because the solution should be to have propulsion systems that don't emit. And I think too often we confuse that as the electric car as the only solution, right? I mean, my friends are SNAM, they tell you that methane is a very natural gases are very good, but it's not considering the regulations. Hydrogen will come obviously as a support with fuel cells. But anyway, technology will be available. Social inclusion is a question mark. Financial sustainability only if all the things together works. And so the recipe, in my view, and this is my last chart, is that first of all, we need to support the investment that will be huge for everyone. And we have an incredible opportunity today. I mean, at least if something good came out from the pandemic, there are resources now available, the recovery fund, I mean, that can be dedicated to some of these projects that are very simple. There is nothing too complicated to decide how to install 170,000 charging public sector in Italy. It's something that the plan can be done in 2 days. It's just the execution. We need to support renovation of plants and spaces and industrial environment. We need to develop the infrastructure not only with the public charging station, but also with the connectivity, the cable cities. Mayor talked about that. We need to retrain people. We need to give incentives, not necessarily to bring more volume of sales of cars, but because we need to remove the 11 million cars that are polluting 10 times the ones that we sell today. That itself, it will reduce the emission in Italy of more than 50%. Just the renewal of the existing car park. And then we need to have stability. We can manage us, the suppliers, our investment, our plans, if regulations are changing every month and every year. So together is better, but we need a plan, and only if we work all together we can achieve that, the private sector and the public sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pietro Gorlier. That was our second keynote speech. Now we can start with the panels. Let me call here on stage Annalisa Stupenengo, President Powertrain, CNH Industries, and Jörg Astalos, CEO Ital Design. In the meantime, they come here. We are also making a connection in remote, because not everybody managed to get here on time. And today, buongiorno Annalisa. Wherever you want. We're going to connect Jorge here, please. What a strange way to salute each other. And we're going to connect in remote with Franco Cevolini, chairman of Energetica Motor Company. I have to tell you that unfortunately Wang Jianjing, who is the CEO of NEVC, National New Energy Vehicle Technology Innovation Center from China, due to technical problems, we are very sorry. We pay our apologies to NEVC, but we couldn't use the video. Before we start the second panel, we have an introduction by Marco Gai, if he can join us here. Marco has been nominated in 2017, appointed the CEO of Digital Magics. He was appointed president of Confindustria Piemonte in 2020, and his speech is going to be about the future of automotive sector, opportunities and risks, which is going to be the theme of the second, of our first panel, actually. And now he's operating as president of General Confederation of Piemonte Industry, which is the English translation for Presidente di Confindustria Piemonte. Buongiorno Marco.
Buongiorno. Benvenuto. Good day, Marco. Thank you. Let me just say a few words by way of introduction to this panel after the interesting things we've heard about so far this morning. Without any question, the automotive market was a market that had already started to show it had some problems before the recent months that have really overturned our world. At a European level, we already had seen a downturn of 7% in the European market in the early months of this year of 2020. And these are sizable figures that must lead us to think of creating a new vision for the future. Research certainly gave us ideas of very complex scenarios lying ahead. But from what we heard this morning, we've also heard about opportunities to interpret differently, to reinterpret the automotive market, reinterpret it in a totally different way for that matter. Let me just leave a few ideas that perhaps we can talk about later. The first is that we have to put at the center of the future production of automobiles. We have to focus on consumers. Customer centricity is the word. This because the ways we use goods, services, the transformation that cars bring with them today in technological terms, to the point of reaching autonomous driving. There's still a way to go, but this is what consumers are asking for. They have new habits, they have new ways of experiencing their cities, public transport, new ways of socializing, and therefore we need a new type of flexibility, a new vision on the part of manufacturers. So we need process digitization, we need to think green. Just this morning, the European Commission has stated that a large amount of the recovery fund amounts will be addressed to green projects, and this obviously clearly shows us where many future investments will be going. So customer centricity also leads us to reflect upon the transition from transport to mobility, all the way to mobility as a service, MAS, a new way of interpreting our strategy in producing, in creating services that can also be added value to the products we build. And so this means smart mobility, it means sharing, it means manufacturing with a different set of infrastructures and structures. Clearly, all this leads to a technological transformation that I think will be discussed by the next two panels. It means joining together the world of things, of artificial intelligence, certification global chain, data observation, using the cloud. And up to a few years ago, all this seemed something close to science fiction, but today it's something very tangible, very concrete, but it requires an enormous overall effort. We've got to revise our infrastructures, and we've also got to change how we manufacture, how we produce these new structures. So customer centricity, as I was saying, digital transformation, new mobility, mobility and services, these are all actually opportunities today. They can't, however, come about autonomously. It's not that every single company can develop these things on its own, but it's by acting together that we can take this a step. The world of production must go in a certain direction. In Piedmont, we have 19 billion with turnover with 60,000 employees, but this is a part of Italy that can commit to this great change, and it takes the support and the strategic vision of a public sector that will understand how to best address investments for our country. Let me close by saying something about the recovery plan. It must contain a large part of vision with respect to all I've spoken about. We're here ready to face this challenge and deal with it because we have all the means and skills to do so. Many thanks.
Federation of Piemonte Industry. Welcome again to Annalisa Stupenengo and to Jorge Astals. Let's start with the ladies first. Hello, Annalisa. Annalisa is the president of Powertrain at CNH Industrial. CNH is Case New Holland, which has inside a lot of brands, if I'm right.
Brands, yes.
Can you get your microphone closer,
yes,
please?
Of course. And if you allow me, thank you. Thank you for the introduction. I will give you some more information on who is CNH Industrial. Actually, the group where FPT Industrial is the brand that is producing, selling, and developing engines, and the majority of which are diesel now. So thank you, Pietro, to remind me this. And not only, of course, the axle. If you can use one slide, I will give you only more info on where we are. CNH Industrial is one of the biggest whole goods producer and is specialized in producing vehicles for agriculture equipment, construction equipment, and commercial light and heavy trucks. Light with production like the daily trucks, buses, but also vehicles for defense or firefighting. So we have more than 12 brands, and FPT Industrial is the brand that is equipped not only the majority, the totality of those vehicles, but as well we are producing engine, axle, and transmission for our third-party customers. And if we can move on. Actually, these are the numbers. I'm an engineer, so I like to use numbers to give you an example of who we are. And I'm very proud to say that FPT is its quarter in Turin. And if we can move on, we are actually producing more than one engine every single minute that we are speaking. And this is thanks to the technology that we are using in all our plants, and the majority of which are still based in Italy. In this context, another engine was made, actually, yes.
By the time we get to Georgia, like 2 or 3 more engines will be made.
2 or 3, yes. Yeah. And despite the fact that every single minute, each of these engines are different. Why I'm saying that? Because compared to all the information that we got this morning, it's really important to underline how this transformation in which we are all affected are affecting not only the car, the transportation of the car's mobility, urban mobility, but as well everything that is moving. Mm-hmm. So when we are talking about tractor, construction equipment, boats, power generation, all these segments where we are present are affected to the trends that we are living. So we need really more and more to think about not only one solution, but a solution that is the one more performing and the ones that will really take the needs and give an answer to the final customer.
Okay, in the meantime, another engine. You don't deal with cars, with automobiles, but with heavy trucks, with agricultural machines, which is a sector that in a way kept going through the pandemic, because of course we needed to eat. So all the agricultural part went ahead. So I don't know with your company, but give us a general idea of how it went down. What happened and what were your reactions? What were your strategy reactions to the pandemic?
I think that the immediate reaction we had, and I think that I talk also for some of my colleagues present here, was First of all, to think about our people. The safety and the security of our people in our plants was the priority number one. Priority number two was to assure the service to our partner, to our customer. I'm a supplier or a partner, as I prefer to be considered to many of our customers. And the very first things was how we can react. So if you want, was a very first reaction like in the first aid. So to stop the emergency, and there was the moment in which we had, unfortunately, to stop our plants. And this was really the very first time that this happened, because we were forced to close and to stop. With the consequences that all we know, that we were really somehow preventing our customer to continue to produce. So this was really a drama at the very beginning, because it was a pandemic that was touching step by step the world. Being a multinational, we were somehow trained, unfortunately, because the pandemic started in China, and so we were experienced all the things that we put in place in order to assure the security and the health and safety in China. And we started to train with the support of our colleagues in all the department to put in place the best protocol that then we shared and we extended to all our plants all around the world. The second point was, of course, to use at the best our people. Because, and I think that this was what we realized all together. What was missing was the proximity with our own colleagues and with our customers. And so we put in place a lot of simply stuff, but are very effective, in order to be in touch and to assure the service. Because as you correctly said, we continue to eat, we continue to use the trucks to have the goods going to the factory or to the supermarket. We continue to fish, we continue to use energy for all other stuff. So somehow some area were continue on track, but at the same time, the level of uncertainty, how when we will be able to restart, when we will be able to continue to have a normal life, were the question that we had to answer internally and to our customers.
Of course. Annalisa, please, we're running a little bit late. Let me ask you, what are the strategies now? I mean, how do you see the foreseeable future for your company and for your sector at large?
I think that the strategies didn't change. Didn't change because we heard this morning to talk, and that I want to repeat that the trends that we were facing in terms of transformation, digitalization, connectivity, servitization, even if it's a word that I don't like, are still confirmed. On the opposite side, we understood that this kind of trend, that were a trend, received a boost, a speed, in a moment in which the level of uncertainty, because of the business that Pietro described before, for example, the market is very volatile and we have a lot of uncertainty in front of us. We needed to invest even more than we wanted before or we were forecasting, because the demand is coming, without having all the assurance from the market. So
it's risky.
It's risky.
That's why we're calling, a panel on opportunities and risks at the same time.
It's risky, but there is a but. I think that this pandemic helped us to understand that doing things together, we can really overcome these things, because the solution will be not unique in terms of propulsion, because we mentioned pure electric, but it's not the solution for a truck. For example, hydrogen is one, and are all solutions that will allow a consensus together with the private, with the supplier, with the institution to do something different and better.
Because another thing that was mentioned during the pandemic and in the recent months is the fact that if the supply chain is a kind of a complex thing, no? If the supply chain misses just one ring of the chain, the whole thing stops. Correct. So when you're talking about working together, it's not, I think, just a sort of an optimistic or a goodwill kind of affirmation, but the fact that really, if you don't work together, and if somebody's missing, the whole thing is going to be missing.
And this is something that we experienced during the pandemic, because we produce engine with thousands of components, and without an AT you cannot build the final truck or the final car. So really working together means sharing vision, sharing plan, and taking the single contribution in terms of expertise that will allow the entire plan flying.
Thank you very much, Annalisa. Are we connected? Yes, we are. Are we connected with Franco Cevolini? Is he? Yes?
Yes.
Franco, we will get to you in a moment. Let me talk to Jorge Astalos first. Allora, Jorge, you are the CEO of Ital Design. You worked in Volkswagen, and then you've been CEO of Ital Design for 5 years now. Ital Design is not as big a company as CNH, so it's a tiny, small company. So let me ask you how you saw and how you, figured out the way to keep going in this pandemic. We heard about a big company. Let's hear about a small company.
Well, I think I can underline many of the things that Annalisa said, and I think we experienced the same things. And I would like to also support maybe what Annalisa said in the very first beginning, because we are happy to work for really the whole market. However, we had also in the pandemic the first actually a false positive case. So we were really on high alert in Europe for us, for the complete network. Because you have to make sure that you can work still with a family, and we really had to understand what does it mean for us that this is now here. But the people had to be safe, and what I saw in this time was especially a good cooperation to find solutions, but also between the companies in Turin, for example, but even across Europe, a big exchange of know-how on how to treat this, also together with China. And I have to say also, maybe you, Annalisa, and I are fortunate and have maybe a work and study room at home, where we can work remote very quietly. But I've seen with all our employees, and this is our asset, and I think most of you had the same experience, that they were really keeping all the deadlines, all the dates, even so they maybe had to do their work in the kitchen or so, or not such a quiet place, right? And I think that's something where we saw a tremendous effort from our people, but I think also that this shows the strength of Turin, because we know in Turin that the people are able to stand and be resilient, yes, with a long history.
I've been accustomed to it for a long time.
Yes, and I think we saw this also in this pandemic, that we are working together there and found new ways. I would also agree with Annalisa that the strategies really did not change significantly. I would say maybe with some ifs and whats, because on the one side we are delivering engineering services, which are able to be run a little bit more remote, but when it goes, for example, into testing and validation and so on, you have to be at the place. You experience this for sure as well. And the other thing is that when you have to control the supply chain, sometimes it makes very much sense with the production readiness team when you're building either a lot of engines, like one every minute, or also your trucks and of course our cars, that you have to be present and work with the suppliers, and not everything is replaceable by a video conference. So there we had to apply some different strategies, also build up new trust levels maybe sometimes, and also see new ways how we check quality and how we do certain controls. But at the end of the day, it was all possible thanks to the effort.
Okay?
I think we are getting through okay. So what we don't see is, we don't see a drop in volume or so, because still there will be cars and trucks and everything that we are developing and building, absolutely. We see a bigger pressure from the margins. I think some of our colleagues here from the service provider side will be able to maybe confirm this later, that there's a big pressure because of the liquidity drain that we saw in the market, which is very understandable. But for this, I think we are entrepreneurs, inventors, and engineers, where we say we have to come up with new solutions to still make the business happen. And I think, therefore, it's based on the people that we are organizing this, and I think we are doing so far quite okay.
Let me ask you very quickly. Chris Bangle at the beginning, gave us a shift of paradigm. Think about cars, think about mobility, think about the space within the car, maybe even the aesthetics. He's a designer on the outside of the car. Have you, from your engineering point of view, have you thought about changing something, about the fact that maybe something has to change to go on in a different way rather than the same as before?
Well, I have to say, some years ago I was happy to visit Chris and Chris Bangle Associates with our team, and I have to say that I think he's right, and we have to have entrepreneurs on our side that do the necessary step forward, and this always goes with risk. And I would say, if you look at CNH Industrial, or if you look at Iveco, if I may say, the step that you went into hydrogen, I think is very, very important. It was for sure not easy, because the diesel was there as the always existing engine, and it will still be, I think, on the market for a certain place, but it was an important investment, and I think it is an important investment, if I may say.
It is also because we were the first one entering and winning the H2all European base, so we do believe that hydrogen will be the future for the long haulage.
And we need, Annalisa, I think, more of these bold steps that people are investing into the future. This means also what Chris was saying in the beginning, that is necessary for us as a company, for sure for CNH Industrial and for all the other ones here, that we invest into future technologies. And therefore the pandemic, with all the suffering, of course, that hit Italy, Europe, and the world, which is, of course, if I may say, a disaster and a tragedy. But at the end of the day, it worked as an accelerator. I think the strategies did not really change, but we know, and it was helpful for me as well, because on some things I think we were good underway, but we know that we have to accelerate those measures much more and see, okay, some more bold steps have to be done, I think, which will help in total the industry.
Yeah, this is very interesting, because the pandemic slowed on one side and accelerated on the other side. So it's kind of you have to find the right balance, between the two to go farther ahead. Electric vehicles, hydrogen vehicles, there's a lot really to talk about. We'll keep talking about that all morning. But let me connect with the head of Energetica Motor Company. Let me put Mr. Cevolini back on, please. Good morning.
Good morning, hello.
Where are you calling from? What is it, a robot behind you?
No, this is just the suit for motorbikes.
Oh, okay. Because we are entering the sector of motorbikes, Franco Cevolini is chairman of Energetica Motor Company. Energetica Energica, sorry, can be translated by energy, with a lot of energy, let's put it that way. And CEO and technical director of CRP Mechanic and CRP Technologies, Energica, parent companies. So there's a lot of interesting things going on. CRP, for instance, they've become one of the leaders in the production of 3D printing, which is another interesting subject that we can talk about. But Franco, good morning. Allora, where are you calling from? Modena? Is that your home place?
Yes, we are located in Modena.
Modena is Modena, for whoever doesn't know the world of bikes at large, is the capital of bikes in Emilia-Romagna at large, and Modena in particular is really the capital. All right, let's go into your business, which is the two wheels, but don't think about a scooter, a city scooter. They produce high-end motorbikes. So then tell me how you felt the pandemic, of course, from your point of view, and what is the situation now of motorbikes of high-end as the ones you produce?
Yeah, obviously pandemic it has been very critical for us, but because we were forced to close the factory. But now we are back, and we are trying to recover what we have lost in this month. But we are very happy because we have a lot of orders, so we are speeding up our production in order to be ready, in order to be able to finish all the bikes that we have to do. Just consider that in the first 8 months of this year, we have more the double of the order of last year. So for us, it's let's say now a good period to go back on the market. And as you have said before, we see that the future is electric also for the two wheels. When we talked before about emotion, what we would like to demonstrate with our motorbikes is that also in two wheels, the electric is extremely emotional, because our motorbikes are very fast and you have a lot of pleasure when you ride them. So from this kind of point of view, the emotion that we are able to deliver with our vehicles is very high.
And how do you see the world of two wheels? Okay, you have a position in the high end, then there's the middle and the low end. But at large, do you see it? We've been talking about electric vehicles the last months, and today in particular, we haven't dealt much with bikes. So how's the situation? How's it evolving? I understand that you're in a good trend, but how is the sector at large in Italy and outside of Italy?
Well, obviously, the sector suffered big issues with this pandemic, because they cannot produce and they cannot sell, because nobody is able now to buy. But it seems that the world is coming back. So we have seen positive numbers. So the companies now, Italian companies, but not only, also foreign companies are now producing and selling more motorbikes, also because it's probably a good vehicle to afford the social distancing, because with you are almost alone or just with one passenger when you ride your bike. So we see that if you are able to be ready with the right product, and we think that also, as I already said, that the future for the two wheels is electric too. I think that we can catch this opportunity in the right way.
Franco, let me ask you also, so you're in a good trend. I mean, the numbers are interesting. Let me ask you something about your viewpoint on the automotive sector at large. I mean, besides the two wheels, let's get to the 4 or the 6, 8 wheels of Annalisa. How do you see it? Do you see it? Obviously, it's in a phase of transformation. I mean, we all know this. But what is your viewpoint? Do you have one in particular on what's going to be happening in the next few years?
Yeah, I think that it's very important because we are facing a transformation because we're going electric, and so the R&D departments are very, very crucial for this transformation. But they cannot do this alone. It is very important to have the right network of suppliers, and these suppliers must be ready to offer new solutions to the OEMs. So we are lucky because, as you said, we are a part of CRP Group, inside of which there are a few companies, CRP Mechanic and CRP Technology, that are able to offer very high-tech solution. In particular, CRP Technology is able to offer 3D printing services with composite materials, and CRP Mechanic is able to offer metal parts made by CNC machining or metal 3D printing. And this is obviously very important because we can speed up the development of new vehicles and also try to solve the challenge that comes from this new technology. You know that normally electric vehicles are heavy, and so you have to save weight in some way. And so using new technologies can the R&D department to solve this issue.
Foreseeable future for art bikes, as Chris Mangle said, look to art to see the new designs?
Yes, even if the motorbikes are quite traditional.
They are works of art in themselves, I think.
Yeah.
You're not really convinced about this.
No, because motorcyclists are quite traditional, and so we are already offering something new because with the new brand and also with the new technology and new powertrain. So we don't want to offer a completely different design.
Franco, just a minute. You had a video. I forgot about this. It's my mistake. You had a video about to introduce Cevolini, which can we run it now? Can we run it now while we're talking? Maybe just the images. Just to give you an idea, I'm really sorry. It was my mistake. I forgot about it. But just to see, what he's doing, because they are really beautiful to look at. Wow. Belle son belle. Beautiful they are.
They certainly are beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Franco. So thank you very much for your comments. So you are I don't see it. Okay. You're positive on the future of both auto and bike.
Yeah, I think so.
You think that the opportunities are more than the risks at this moment?
Yeah, it's a bigger challenge. But I think that especially in Italy, we have all what we need to go on in a positive way, with a positive mood.
Because there's also to be said that there are some countries in which there's a lot of bikes, and the countries in which there are not a lot of bikes. Italy certainly is among the first group. You were asking, wanted to say something.
Chip in something more, because we always speak about electrical solutions for everything. Mm-hmm. I think it was right what we heard before. The world is a little bit more multifaceted. So you will have different solutions for cities, for overland travel, and so on and so forth. So we always call this multimodal, but I think that's also the strength, because all this has to be developed. So to be honest, I think there are no risks. It's just full of opportunities. The risk is only there if you don't take it. But the core
risk is more psychological than actual.
Where's the risk? Because we need different solutions right now for all kind of different problems and challenges. Some of those will be electric, the other ones will be hydrogen, the other ones will be still combustion engine, which is totally fine. Because if you're somewhere, sorry to say, but in the woods, you don't have a charging column. You have this problem, right? And you will not overcome range anxiety if you have to travel 700 kilometers fast. So there will be different solutions, and I think this is the right group of people that we see here that can develop that.
Let me ask Franco, just one last thing, very quick, Franco. How many charging stations are there for your bikes? Are there enough right now, or is that something that is behind the development of the machines themselves?
Well, this is a very good question. We know that we are stronger where there are the charging stations. So we are selling a lot in North of Europe, North America, so United States. But Italy, for example, is now coming back with a very strong activity. They are deploying a lot of charging stations. Obviously, it is for our kind of product, it is better if fast charging, but our motorbikes can charge from the standard poles that are used also by cars. So obviously it is very important that we have a good network of charging stations. But again, it is much easier to deploy some charging station instead of repairing a gas station. So it is, in my opinion, it is quite easy. And we have seen also in Italy that things are changing very fast. So
let me ask you,
I'm positive. Yeah.
A quick question, really out of my personal curiosity. I'm a curious guy. How much is the cost of charging? You won't find them on the streets. All right, you want to make one at home. How much is the charging station if you want to make one in your home? More or less.
Okay, at home you have two choices. The first is just to use a traditional plug, and so in this way you are not spending anything for any special device, and our bikes, in this case, you can charge it just spending 3 or 4 euros.
Okay.
And but if you want also a faster charging station, because maybe you want also to charge your car, with for 400 euros, 450 euros, you can install a charging station at home.
Okay, that's good news. Not that much.
If I may chip in again, it's about generating, this group of people here is about generating solutions for people. So when you talk about an electrical vehicle, might it be now a bike or a car, how it is for you today, you go to a store or you buy it online, right? And it gets delivered to you or you pick it up. One experience, one contract, that's it. Today, you need to think about your wall box like you just did at home and everything that is connected to that. I think it's a challenge to us, but it's a good challenge and opportunity again, where we say, okay, how do we create the one-stop shopping experience that is really good for the customer, that he doesn't have to worry? Why does it have to be more complicated than a buy of an app or some additional services for your phone? So this means when you buy an electrical vehicle, that somebody thinks about the charging column, that you don't have to talk to 3 different constructors, etc., etc., etc. Yeah. And I think there are also opportunities how we can progress into a further chain of value creating, and for Annalisa as well as for us and the colleagues here in the room as well. So there are a lot of opportunities. Yeah, but we have to think customer focused, and I think that maybe closes the circle also to what Chris said before. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Jorge. Thank you very much, Annalisa. Thank you, Franco, out there in Modena. That was the end of the first panel. Thank you. You can find your way outside. Allora, we have a second panel. This was the manufacturers panel, although you've seen very different kind of manufacturing. This instead is the sanitation of. Okay, the camera's on me, is not on what's happening around. Okay, let's start the second panel. So can you please have the people come in? There's going to be more people coming in this time. C'è il video. Allora, okay, for the second panel, we have a video on Torino and Piemonte, so the people outside of Italy can figure out why this region is so productive and why it's so attractive also in another way. So please, can you go with the video? Thank you. Okay, the people have sat down, but before we start the panel, I will just take 30 seconds because I want to show you where we are. We are in the Regio Theatre, Teatro Regio. It means royal, but it's not an old theatre, it's a new theatre because it was burnt down in the 70s. It was rebuilt by an architect, a very famous architect called Mollino. So I just wanted to show you the inside. The beginning was those glass pipes, those light up and become like a cloud of stars. And then there's a very modern theater. Of course, you won't see many people inside. We are practicing our distancing. Okay, this is the Teatro Regio, and let me introduce the panel on that we have here. We're talking about the supply chain now, so more or less the theme is the same, you know, how you reacted to the pandemic, what are your strategies, what you see in the foreseeable future, where are the risks, where are the opportunities. The theme is the same, but of course it's supply chain management and not the not as we were doing before the manufacturing. So, let me see, Marco Rollero, where is he?
Here I am.
Marco, you can take off your mask, I think. We have social distancing. Everything has been sanitized, cleaned up. I mean, we should be safe. Pierpaolo Antonioli, CEO Punch, Torino. Roberto Vavassori, Chief Public Affairs and Institutional Relations Affairs for Brembo. You must know this company. Corinne Bilbao won't be with us, and she couldn't connect in remote, but she sent a video. We'll broadcast the video. Norbert Alt, CEO FEV Europe. Good morning. Oscar Albin Santos, President of INA, Industria Nacional de Autopartes, from Mexico. He sent a video as well. We're going to look at it in a moment. Daniele Franceschini. Hello, Daniele. Good morning. Responsible of innovation for mobile and fixed access IP transport network and all IT systems, including evolution to cloud for TIM. TIM is the biggest Italian telco. Gianfranco Carbonato, Prima Industries. And we will be connecting, hopefully, with Vincenzo Russi, who is the CEO of Enovia. Before we start the panel, we have a word from Giorgio Marziai, President of the Unione Industriali Torino and President of Sabelt, which is an international leading company in the design and manufacturing of original equipment car seats, seat belts, motorsport products for automotive, aviation, and aerospace applications. Good morning, Giorgio.
Good morning. Good morning to everybody. Good afternoon. It will be a little more than one word. Okay. I promise you, not too many, but this is what. I'm extremely pleased to speak to a very qualified audience of the automotive world, a sector which is exposed to the highest competitiveness. We are heading towards a new global market, car system. The crisis caused by the pandemic, and we heard that earlier this morning, is exacerbating some trends already well outlined before the spread of COVID-19. The first of these trends is the technological paradigm shift. We heard enough to talk wording about this. The second trend is the crisis of the globalization model, with a certain relocation of the OEMs within continental region, as they call it. The fall in market, we consider that about 90 million vehicles were produced in 2019 and about 2019, and about 20% or 50% lost this year, they expect. So it's a tremendous. It resulted in an economic condition that certainly make both the ongoing technological transition and the reorganization of production chains on a continental basis more expensive, and above all, full of risk. The car system as a whole, therefore, to all its players, whether they are the OEMs or the supply chain. The two different ways of understanding the automotive sector and its future are being compared at the moment. The first is linked to the approach of the great historic players, the OEMs, and the other one is the vision supported by the most radical innovators, for example, Elon Musk. We are in the midst of a dichotomy between different visions and alternative approaches to mobility and their processes. With this comparison, we are entering the field of new mobility, rightly highlighted is a recent document of our colleagues from Emilia-Romagna, Confindustria Emilia-Romagna. In Turin, we have all the skills required. That applies to the different players, the OEMs and the manufacturers and the supply chain. About 10 days ago, the Ambrosetti Forum, which we hosted here in Turin, the sector, discussed what the recovery will be like after the fearful crisis we are going through. And no economist felt like betting on what its dynamics will be. So uncertainty. This requires all players in the automotive world to be prepared to be as versatile and flexible as possible. Readiness, rapid adaptability, immediate reactivity to changing markets, speeding sizing the opportunities that will arise are all factors that will affect the competitive capacity of our companies. For the supply chain, if you like, is even more demanding. They need to develop more tuning skills and specialize in the timely reading of market data. They must learn to relate to the big players. And if you look in the automotive industry, the OEMs are not more than 10, 8 or 10. Different brands, but only the major players are 8 or 10. So we have insisted, and I insist on the need to transform the vision of those who work within the automotive sector. This is a lesson in method that applies first and foremost, but not only to businesses here in Turin area. We both are, today, we are faced with a scenario that urges to radically innovate our business, our way of doing business. We are ready to compete on reshoring strategies at European level. We do not have strong industrial policies behind us like those of Germany, France, Hungary, Romania, Czechia, Poland, name it. Those are all production sites strongly taken root. Today we compete mainly on the basis of our strength and the long and solid experience we have gained. It is a valuable asset, but we must innovate it, first of all here in Turin. The next year, a new large automotive group, and Pietro was explaining earlier, Stellantis, will be born and will join the presence of CNH here in Turin. So we have the strength of the automotive manufacturer. One of the major players will become about 8 million if they join together. They will join together in the first quarter of next year. And we also have the strong presence, historically, Annalisa was pointing out, CNH. It is clear that our car district is an opportunity, but we must take advantage of. But I would also add that we will have to work hard to make it happen, and nothing will be guaranteed. We will have to develop the relationship with the new Stellantis group, improving our skills, enhancing the quality of our processes, boosting our productivity. My hope is that the new group will keep here in Turin the research and design structures created in the old days by Fiat and then FCA. It is up to us, the supply companies, to make a further qualitative leap that qualifies us not only in the eyes of Stellantis, but in the eyes of all car manufacturers in the world. We must act in a double direction. On one hand, we must do everything to ensure that the precious and huge know-how we have gained over a century of history is not diminished or dispersed. On the other hand, we have to make this further enrichment a clear condition for attracting new activities. The commitment of our industrial association, together with the Polytechnic University of Turin, the university, the different institutions, to technology transfer and the training and qualification of our workers. This is the top priority for us. You must involve our companies. We must involve our companies, especially smaller ones, more and more closely in the process of technological innovation, just as we must involve workers in continuous action to improve their professional skills. This is the best way to raise the quality and performance of our industry and the territory. Let me be clear, our local industrial system is at a crossroad. Either it gets stronger and bigger by leveraging its specialization and attitudes, or it falls back on itself, thus jeopardizing its future and the future of our territory and industry. I think we have to play the game in front of us to the end and be convinced that we have the resources to win it. There is one aspect in particular that I want to underline. It concerns the size of our companies. I'm not the only one. The governor of the Bank of Italy, Professor Visco, said recently at the Bank of Italy Assemblea. We have the qualities of merits that everyone remembers, but we do not have the dimensional growth of our companies. As a result, we find ourselves today with companies that are not the right size to compete in European and global markets. We need to go behind the limit of size, convincing ourselves that there are good reasons to have larger companies, more capable of integrating supply activities. I look at my colleagues here, and we have discussed this of the supply chain and the activity to reinforce the supply chain. In the advantage of the OEMs, but in the advantage of the tier one of the supply chain. Aggregation is to accelerate the technological change together with managerialization. Italy, it's important because when the companies are too small, the managerialization is not there yet. So the last point, to point that the industrial policy here in Italy is still, to a very large extent, an empty box, which the government must fill in. The key deadline is the recovery fund. All the European nations that have a productive soul have an industrial policy. Italy still does not. And it is of strategic importance for the mechanical and the automotive sector. There has long been a gap in the cohesion between the public and private sector. Today is the moment to fill it in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Marziai, thank you very much for introducing our panel. I'll try to make 2 rounds, okay? First question, second question. So the first will be more on the pandemic itself, on the reaction, let's say a more tactical kind of situation, and then the strategic, which is the future that the people with me today are foreseeing for their company. Let's start with Mr. Marco Rollero. Allora, we said that it's a very diversified supply chain. There's going to be people talking from various points of view. Marco, in a way, sort of takes them all together because he's the vice president of ANFIA. ANFIA is, I've never translated in English this, but it's Associazione Nazionale, National Association of Filiera Supply Italian Automotive. Okay, I got it. And he's also the vice president of Eaton Corporation. Allora, what happened? You probably talked with a lot of people because they were all referring to your association in a way. So how did you manage this black swan that sort of, you know, just dropped in the middle of us all of a sudden?
Yeah, actually what we said about this pandemic is that definitely there was no playbook for it. I mean, we didn't know how to react. So I will give an answer in 2 folds. The first fold is my institutional role at ANFIA, and the second one as a representative of a large multinational company. So first and foremost, what ANFIA did was to embark in a massive campaign of information. I mean, the fabric of the industrial territory in Italy is composed mostly by small and medium enterprise. And not everybody has the structure to deal with a massive amount of information, decrease and change the way to manage production and operations and so on and so forth. So safety, first and foremost, not only because of the ethical reason of preserving the health of our people, but also because you're dealing with a very limited demand. You're just trying to get through the bumps of having a limited demand. And if you have one case at your plant and you have to stop it, now the trouble really comes out because you have an incredible fixed cost structure that you can only partially offset with limited demand. I heard numbers about 25% down for the year, but in reality, in March and April, we were basically idling. So the second thing that ANFIA did was really to lobby continuously to stimulate demand. I mean, in a situation like this, you cannot just solve things with subsidies and furlough and, you know, Kurzarbeit and short time and so on and so forth. I mean, you really need to recreate the conditions to restart the demand from an industrial standpoint and also from an R&D standpoint, investing in the possibility of developing. I mean, I heard a number, 36% of the industry, automotive industry is in Piemonte. So this is something that we need definitely to leverage the incredible tank of competence and knowledge that we have here. Now let's talk about how a multinational reacts to that. So safety, as I said, first and foremost, the same. Also, you know, we are a multinational, but we want to be present on the territory. And I want to just mention, I'm very proud to mention that Eaton managed to, every donation that was done by our employees, Eaton was doubling up the donation. So, you know, $10,000 collected in Torino office, they became $20,000, and they go to the local community. I am a supply chain person, so supply chain continuity was really the name of the game. I heard many times during this period, cash is king. There is an incredible pressure on cash. If you do not have sales, you have only fixed costs, so you need cash. So early signs of disruption, economical disruption, must be analyzed because, as Annalisa was saying before, if you just miss a bolt, you cannot complete your product. So definitely, and this also was kind of a staggered pandemic because it started with China, so you have to follow through with the Chinese suppliers first, and after that the European ones, and after that the Indian ones. Right now we have still an Indian and Brazilian task force to check on suppliers.
It gets complicated.
Oh yeah, so definitely it opens our eyes. This is a term that is used and abused of resilient supply chain, but we need to have it shorter. Mm-hmm. We are just realizing that we need to have it shorter, more localized. We realized that thanks to Mr. Trump and the introduction of the tariffs already a couple of years ago, and right now it becomes even more urgent. Tariffs, pandemic, FX changes are really influencing it. And this is just a loud scream that I make to our customers to allow us to manage our supply chain, especially in terms of dual sourcing, for instance, to be ready for emergency. Right now, the procedure of, you know, approving any change, of course, to preserve the quality must be very rigid, but at the same time, we need to have those possibilities. We are facing a V-shaped recovery right now. Demand is going up, hopefully. We are revising upwards all the forecasts every month, so we are happy.
Okay, thank you very much, Marco. Let's pass on to Punch here. Pierpaolo Antonioli is the CEO of Punch Technologies. Of Punch Torino, which is, Punch is a multinational, is a Belgium multinational. So you are managing the Torino. Marco, Pierpaolo, the automotive industry was obviously changing before the COVID-19. We said that on one side, the whole situation stopped, and on the other side, probably the thinking went faster. You know, how to get out of this? How can we change? What is the future? Let's grab the future right now. So there are several trends in this moment, you know, electric vehicles, hybrid, fuel cells, hydrogen. There are a lot of solutions, as we mentioned in the panel before. Do you think that the old automobiles, the combustion engines like diesel and gasoline, still have a future? What is your point of view on those fuels and on the new ones that are coming out in these years?
Yeah, okay.
The transition.
Yes. First of all, good afternoon to everybody. And thanks for this question, because I really loved the statement that Chris Bengal did at the beginning. No? He was talking about the perfect storm. He was talking about the fact that in a perfect storm, we really need to disrupt our mindset, our way of thinking, and use this as an opportunity of change. And also the inverse approach, that doesn't mean to do the opposite of what we were doing before, but really to think a little bit more why we want to do something, why we need to select a strategy. And so from this perspective, and also to answer to your question, during the COVID, we really were thinking about a strategy, and the strategy was starting really from a why. First of all, and I believe that this is something that Giorgio Massai loves a lot, if you look to what we did in the last 100 years, Europe invested in the development, in the manufacturing of mechanical technologies in order to produce vehicle and engines, internal combustion engines. Our strength, our supplier chain here in Europe is focusing in the last 100 years with a lot of billions that we invested in this kind of technologies. So first of all, we should think to reuse our heritage and not just to waste the heritage that in which we invested, and also in the competencies, because it's not just manufacturing, are really competencies that we have that are the strength of Europe. Second, in a strategy like that, we should think about a strategy that is really sustainable. We heard Pietro Gorlier talking about the fact that a battery electric vehicle costs 11,000 euro more than a standard vehicle, and that the GDP of Europe, of the world, is going down. All this can be really sustainable if we think that battery electric vehicles are the solution for the future. Probably this is something that we should think about. And then we should also think that also battery electric vehicles are not really a solution for pollution, because if you really look to well-to-wheels, means the compressed cycle, a battery electric vehicle probably is producing more CO2 than a poor diesel engine, okay? And then we should also think about compromise, because there was Mr. Stepanenko here from CNH, and you should think that a truck with 400 tons, in order to range 700 kilometers, it should carry 7 tons of batteries. Also, this is not sustainable. And so we should also look for a strategy that is allowing not to have compromises. This is compromising in terms of durability, compromising in terms of charging time, compromising in terms of range and payload. So when I think to all of this, I think that we should develop a strategy that can still reuse internal combustion engines that are not so bad. Gas and diesel today are not polluting so much, especially if we develop them, we add the right level of electrification, the right level of hybridization, and then we should reuse, let me say, our competencies and also our geographical position in Europe, that we are very close to the North Africa and very close to the North Europe, in order to develop an energy supply strategy that can make use of hydrogen. Because with hydrogen, we can still use our internal combustion engine, especially the diesel ones, that can work with hydrogen. We have the technology to make them efficient like a diesel, but without really producing the pollutants that today the standard internal combustion engines are using. And then to move to the next step, that is really the focus on fuel cell. Consider that, for example, Italy was the country that developed more the use of CNG. And hydrogen is not so different from CNG, it's a gas. So we have also the supply chain to manage valves, to manage tanks, to manage pumps. Moreover, we, especially in Italy, but I want to talk about Europe, we have the opportunity of moving hydrogen that can be produced, for example, in North Africa using electrolysis and solar, to Europe using the existing pipelines of CNG. This is something that SNAM is working, but the same is happening in the north. So we can be again in a position where we can compete technologically, but also from a product and an economic perspective against the East countries, especially when we talk about China, that today has a predominant position on the battery electric vehicle. So from a punch perspective, this is a little bit how we are strategizing our scenario. Reuse of all the technologies, of the plant, of manufacturing, of the jobs and the competencies in which we invested in the last 100 years, and move to the next step, where battery electric vehicles are a transition. For sure, we need to use this transition, but it's not the final point.
You mentioned the fact of having to compete with the giant, which is China. Especially on electric vehicles, they're moving very fast. This is interesting. We don't have time to go deeper into this thing, but of course, Italy, which is part of Europe, so Europe is reacting, no? Europe is the third challenger between America and China, and has to gain power again, has to maintain its status, otherwise, a decline is possible. Thank you very much, Pierpaolo, sì. Roberto Vavassori, CEO Brembo. Roberto had a long time within Brembo, no? You started working in 1978 for Brembo. Brembo makes, of course, brakes, very high-level brakes. And he's been in the company with different roles and responsibility. Now he's the Chief Public Affairs and Institutional Relations Officer. You make brakes.
Yeah.
But we don't need brakes. In this moment, we need to run.
In order to run faster, you need good brakes and to use them when it is appropriate, yes, of course.
Allora, so how is the situation right now? How do you see it?
In general, we see that we miss volume. We miss volume in Europe, particularly, very trivially put. China is doing well, recovered quite quickly. We reopened our factory the 27th of February. On the verge of closing our European factories, we will restart in China. So we knew how to deal with the emergency of a pandemic in terms of protecting our workers and protecting our suppliers. US is doing more or less well, despite the spikes of pandemic still going on. Certainly, we are adding this very strange year to a couple of years already with not brilliant results of our sector. And in the midst of a transformation, as everybody said from this podium, I would offer in 3 minutes, 10 bullets, if you like.
A machine gun.
We talk about mobility, of course, here of data, don't forget data, goods, don't forget goods, indispensable to our life, and people, of course. Governing the transition is the key objective. It's all about knowing and designing a proper path to move from where we are to 2030 and beyond. 2050, the European Union has set like the year of neutral carbon, not zero carbon, but neutral carbon year. Second, technology neutrality has to be the governing rule. Governments have not to dictate how or to impose a technology, but to leave researchers doing their work and companies applying their science. We talk about decarbonization. Don't forget carbon capture. I believe that in future, carbon capture should be one area of heavy investigation, because one truck is emitting 1 good kilo of carbon dioxide every kilometer it runs. So something could be done about. We use power units very efficient today, but let's focus on what we burn in these power units. So I believe that in the coming years, a more stringent relationship between the fuel industry and the producers of internal combustion engine has to be necessary. Syn fuels, regenerative fuels, fuel from waste, circular economy is something where our country is a champion. Electric, yes, of course, but without rare earth metal coming just from one country. Guess the name of this country, of course. And with lot of European added value. Today, every time we buy or we use an electric car, we make big gifts to our Asian friends, don't forget that. And we steal labor from our European companies. Hydrogen is a promising factor, yes, of course, still hurdles to be solved, because nowadays the easiest way to get hydrogen is from fossils, but we have to, of course, invest a lot on water hydrolysis with some renewable energy. Lightweighting, don't forget lightweighting is absolutely important, and in Italy we master this technology, both from machine producing to cast light metal and to form parts as well. I would like also to say that we need to maintain passion to our industry. I don't care if I board an Airbus 320 or a 737 Boeing. but I want to continue to care about which car I use from moving from A to B. Passion has to be an ingredient, as we heard also from some of the panelists today. R&I is certainly the only thing that we must use to remain competitive. It is absolutely necessary. Europe has understood this. Italy is lagging a bit behind. Many words, few facts. Now it is time to show facts, because companies want to continue increasing their R&I spending. Last, somebody has already said this, in order to be quick and efficient in improving holistically our environment, our planet, a sustained, for a few years, scrapping scheme of cars could be the best way, also financially, for our country and for Europe. So this is what we suggest as an industry. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Roberto. We have a video now from Corinne de Bilbao. Corinne is the CTO of Segula Technologies. She's responsible. She was actually president and CEO of General Electric France for quite a long time, and now she's responsible to expand the engineering services activities across all regions. And since April 2019, she is the CTO of Segula Technologies. So if you're ready, we can send it and we can listen to Corinne.
Good afternoon, I'm Corinne de Bilbao. I'm the CEO for the International Division of Segula Technology. I'm also in charge of the research and development of the group. To that, I spent 28 years with General Electric in global leadership position in the energy and the healthcare sectors. My last position was president of General Electric in France. I wish I could be with you, but unfortunately, with the current crisis, it's not possible. But I'm sure we can catch up after that. As engineers and as an engineering company, we foster innovation and we love innovation. Of course, the COVID crisis has stressed a lot the organization and put to us a lot of challenges. But at the same time, it creates a lot of opportunities. Some of those opportunities are the interdisciplinarity of our activities. Automotive has always been a mature industry and at the same time at the forefront of innovation. And we do realize that with all the skills and best practices that we develop in that industry, we can use them and apply them to other sectors of activities. This is what we can see in the infographic. Industrialization, perceived value, validation testing, a lot of those best practices can be applied to pharmaceutical, to naval, to defense. I'd like to share with you two concrete examples of what we've been doing as Segula Technology. One, during the COVID crisis, with a well-known aeronautic company, Safran, we developed a partnership to adapt snorkeling masks from a sport retailer to protect health personnel from airborne droplets. What we've been providing to this partnership is our capacity to industrialize and scale up very quickly that technology and that production. So second example is relative to alternative energies for transportation. We've been working on hydrogen technology for trucks. That hydrogen technology can be used for automotive, can be used for naval transportation as an example. So this is another example, but there are many other ones. Like, for example, what we do in terms of lighter materials in a lot of sectors of activities, or 3D printing. So as you can see, interdisciplinarity is very important to us. We're investing a lot of time and a lot of attention because we do believe that's going to be a game changer for our industries today.
Okay, so very many thanks to Corinne de Bilbao for her video message. And we go to Norbert Alt, who is Vice President of FEV. Another engineer, I suppose, right? Mechanical engineer was your...
Mechanical engineer,
Mechanical engineer. I've never met so many engineers in my life in just one morning. Since 1889, you held various positions of FEV in Aachen. In 2002, he was appointed Business Unit Manager, Vehicle Physics Acoustics. In 2006, Vice President of the Sales Region, Europe and South America, the famous EMEA, and now Chairman of the Executive Board of FEV Europe. Good morning.
Hello, good afternoon.
From your company point of view, from FEV point of view, how did you manage? How did you react? How did you manage? Did you get out of the tunnel fast enough, or are you still stuck inside? What's going on?
So as we are working globally as engineering partner for all our OEM partners.
You could work at home, right?
Yes, we worked at home partly. Yeah. So, but nevertheless, what I wanted to say is plenty of different solutions. But in general, yes, we did a lot of work in remote because engineers with computers can work at home. So the remote work increased. And we can say we learned a lot about that, and we are discussing about efficiency solutions for the future, because what we learned, we will adapt to the future. Our remote work will stay higher as it ever has been before. So we learned from that.
Let me ask you just one thing, totally out of the context, but a lot of people say that this remote working, especially for those like engineers, computers, that can actually do the remote working, because obviously other factory workers have a hard time doing that. Do you think it's going to continue? Or do you think that, let's say, within 1 year, we're back to normal, the new normal, with the vaccine and everything? Is remote working going to keep going?
As I said, we are already discussing programs, how to do it. Yeah, we are discussing, for example, together with companies like Microsoft. Yeah, the IT industry is very far in that. How to handle shared desk, yeah, which means you don't have your own desk in the office anymore. There are hundreds of desks for even the double of number of people, and so by that you can save money from the buildings, and the people are happy to have this freedom. And you see this we are coming from conventional powertrain, but we are doing a lot of work in intelligent mobility, software development. These young people in the world are different. They want that. They want to have that freedom. You have to offer this as a and then you asked how we manage. This was one part, a lot of remote work. And for sure, we pushed a lot all safety topics like everybody does now. Yeah, but in the beginning, I can report here. We had a part of projects with our Chinese customers in Germany. They said in the beginning, "You are crazy. Why you don't use masks?" That was it in the beginning, all over Europe. We did not so much react directly with the masks. And some of the Chinese went home, back to China. Later, they came back and they said, okay, now also the European and the Germans understood the risk of this situation. So, and then we have powertrain test benches, vehicle test benches. This was also mentioned here by somebody else before today. There you need the operators on site, and again with safety masks, with disinfection and all these things. So finally, we came through with a very high workload. It was a little bit different worldwide. US was hidden more. India still is somewhat critical.
You worked at home, but a lot of other people in the supply chain did not. So how did you relate? I mean, okay, I understood that your business kept going on. So the engineers kept working on the computers and everything. But the other people, your interaction with people who did not have the easiness to go on remote working, how was that?
Most of my customers had a higher remote share as we by ourselves. So me personally, I was in the office all the time. So I asked the people for sure to do remote to be more on the safer side. But as we had a certain around 50 to 65% people still working on site in the office, for sure the management must be there. But I had many meetings where the customer was at home. So it was really crosswise the industry. And I know from some big OEMs, they're doing the same as we are starting. They started programs to think about which office building they can stop the renting, saving money because they will increase their remote share.
Proprietors.
So the world learned something, and the employees are more happy.
The proprietors of the owners of buildings and offices are going to go through hard times this year, next year, because a lot of people are going to pull back from the offices. Thank you very much, Norbert. Let's go to Daniele Franceschini. Hello, Daniele. Good morning. Daniele is in charge of the technology, as I said before, but I'll mention it again, is in charge of the technology, innovation, standardization, and IPR, responsible for innovation for mobile and fixed access, IP transport network, all IT systems, including evolution to the cloud. Now, of course, what is a telco doing in a supply chain? Well, telco is doing a lot because there's a big transformation going on, and as much as the new vehicles will become more and more complicated, more connected, more complicated from a technological point of view, connected and everything, a telco, and with the emergence of 5G, which is being more or less launched in a few spots around the world, but should become a major issue in 1 or 2 years, a telco can do a lot. So, but let's start with the first question. This is the first round of questions. How did you manage to go through the pandemic? What was the reaction? Did you keep working? Were your customers working with you?
Yeah. Okay, first of all, good morning. And yes, during the pandemic situation, team with the platform, with the fixed and mobile ultra broadband platform, supported, let me say, the communication of the country in the different aspects, of course. For our son, the video lessons, of course, for the companies, we supported a lot of smart working. And so with
you had a lot of traffic going.
Yes.
You increased dramatically. I read, almost 3 figures number in the increase of people.
There was a lot of traffic there, and we managed with our network because, of course, we had, let me say, a complete end-to-end dimension network from the fixed and mobile access up to the transport. And so we managed the traffic, but the best thing was that we supported the activities of our country during the lockdown, and of course supporting all the different segments of the society. So the school, the hospital, and making possible that the families could communicate with the people that of course were there, and of course a number of companies with their smart working and making available in the cloud of tools like digital workplaces and so on and so forth in order to support that. And of course, we managed this, we learned a lot, and of course, now we want, as you said before, Carlo, to go faster towards our future. And really it was a pleasure to hear here in this automotive sector that we have a lot of transformation. If we look at the mobile and car sector, as Peter Drucker said, this is the industry of the industries, because of course here we found a lot of different segments, chemical, mechanical, electronic, connectivity, and so the automotive is in the middle of a really transformation that brings into together all these technological transformation, but also social, cultural, economical. And in this digital transformation, we feel that the telco evolution is the trigger, the driver, and at the same time, the instruments to carry over this kind of transformation also for the automotive. Because we do think that the telco evolution is much more than connectivity, is an enabling platform that is able, thanks to artificial intelligence, big data, and connectivity bring together to enable different vertical segments to use pieces of our networks, slices, to implement the different aspects that they need. And for automotive is something, as I said before, since it's the industry of the industries, that is quite an holistic view for that, because of course you can manage to, with a 5G platform, to address all the aspects related to manufacturing, but also to the use of the car. Let's speak of connected car, autonomous vehicle, but also all the aspects related to the control of the traffic. So really we feel that there is a lot of things we could do together for the future.
Okay, keep in mind this 5G thing. So in the second round, we talk a little bit about the future of a company like TIM. We have a film from Mexico, because I mentioned before that Oscar Albin Santos, president of Industria Nacional de Autopartes, couldn't make it from Mexico, and so we have a film. If you are ready, we can see it.
Hello, I am Oscar Albin, president of the Autopart Mexican Association. It is a pleasure for me to be present in this important event organized by my friend BTM. At this time, I will have the opportunity to introduce you with the Mexican auto part and automotive industry. Basically, in Mexico, we are split in three big sectors. One is heavy-duty truck, second, light vehicle production, and the third one is the auto part. Talking about heavy-duty trucks, I want to let you know that the biggest OEMs for North America have manufacturing sites for heavy-duty trucks, like Kenworth Packard, Navistar, Freightliner, Mercedes-Benz. We are producing in Mexico more than 200,000 units, and I am an honor to say that Mexico is ranked #1 in the world for export heavy-duty trucks. Second, passenger cars. Mexico is producing more than 4 million vehicles, and we have installed capacity for more than 5 million vehicles. We have almost all international brands producing and manufacturing passenger cars in Mexico. From Europe, we have Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Volkswagen, Fiat, and from Asia, we have Kia, Hyundai, Toyota, Honda, Mazda, and from United States, FCA, Chrysler, General Motors, and Ford. All of them manufacturing and excellent vehicles ranked also on the top quality standards in the North American market. Talking about what are we missing in Mexico to be complete. Today, you could build a car in Mexico with parts bumper to bumper with tier 1 suppliers. But we are weak on components, tier 2s, raw material, and tool makers. So I am sending this voice to all of you that would like to participate in the North American market as a tier 2 tool maker or raw material producer in the automotive sector. Please take an opportunity to look into Mexico for future investment. Finally, I would like to invite you to visit our web page, www.ina.com.mx, in order to contact us if you require more information about data, contacts, or anything you need from a Mexican automotive sector. As I said, I appreciate to VTM for this big opportunity to let you know about Mexico, about the Mexican automotive industry, and give you the sense of the good opportunity to participate in this extraordinary market. Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much on our part to Oscar Albin Santos from Mexico. And I have to tell you, Oscar will be probably, what time is it now? Well, very early in the morning in Mexico. He's probably watching the live streaming. And I'm sorry I can't make this question directly to him, but we were all wondering what kind of car he was just holding in his hands, because it looked like an old Beetle. Yeah, it looked like an old Beetle, but at the same time, you know, it was a little bit of flower power, you know, and in appreciation to the flower power age with a little, with the margaritas on the wheels and everything. But it could be a car of the future. What do we know about what's going on in Mexico? All right, so thank you very much, Oscar. Let's get to Gianfranco Carbonaro. Buongiorno, good morning, Gianfranco. He's the CEO of Prima Industries. Allora, 1977, with a group of engineers, he gives life to Prima Progetti, then becoming Prima Industrie, a company specialized in laser systems for industrial applications. Now it's, in the meantime, it's become a global group in the field of laser and sheet metal machines, of laser sources as well, because you build both laser and applications for the laser, as well industrials, electronics, and additive manufacturing. Good morning. Good morning. Allora, from your point of view, and then the first round is more or less on the present, on the tactics of going through the pandemic and how you adjusted to that, because we all have to be very adaptive, and there's been a lot of, you know, of quotes on the capacity of adaptation in this moment. Was your big company on the same line?
We are not a big company. We are a small, mid-sized company, let me say, 1,800 people, but active in many countries worldwide. Let me say first that my name is Carbonato with the T, not with the R.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, but okay. I'm Gianfranco. Anyhow.
All right.
I am a supplier to the automotive industry, but we are not a tier 1 or tier 2 supplier. We make capital goods equipment. And we supply a lot of industries, automotive, aerospace, a lot of industries, sheet metal fabrication in general. The capital good industry is normally cyclical, independently from the pandemic, I mean. And our cycle normally lasts about 10 years, with 7-8 years of good growth, and then a couple of years or 2 or 3 years of decline. In our case, in our business, the decline started already 2 years ago.
Why?
Because it is a cyclical market, you know. Industry make investments, and then when the investments are running and the capacity is saturated, and they wait another phase of growth to make other investments.
Are you ready to make those cars, as Chris Bangle said this morning, with artsy kind of cars?
Since the car was made in Checom, and Checom is using only our machines, we did those cars for sure. I don't know, but more than probably, yes.
And did you adapt well during the crisis?
Well,
how were your partners
of course,
doing?
yes. We are prepared to the cycles, as I said. Particularly the automotive industry was declining already from the end of 2018. China was the first country to decline, to slow down. So we are quite adaptive, let me say. We are flexible. Today, of course, the situation with the pandemic was deteriorated, much more than was forecasted with the normal cycle. It is similar to what happened in 2009 with the financial crisis. So we have, of course, changed our model. Fortunately, we do not serve only one industrial sector, so we are not only linked to the automotive, which is one of the worst today, together with the aerospace, because also the aerospace deserves some thoughts, because 2/3 of the airplanes in operation are at ground today, okay? And then we have taken advantage of the fact that we have people in 30 countries. So only 15% of our business is made in Italy. Only 25% was made in the automotive. Now is probably 50% of that. So we have used our people in the other countries for delivering machines, installing machines. We have also plants, manufacturing factories in North Europe, in China, in the US, not only in Italy. The biggest problem we have experienced is the lack of traveling, because the fact that you cannot travel in a business like ours is a big problem. Because, of course, we have a lot of subsidiaries worldwide, but not all the people are able to install and make service, because we make machines that require service and installation in all the countries. So we have used a lot of new technologies like virtual reality, connection, remote maintenance, and so on, to allow our people to serve the market. But this is still today the main constraints we have from this pandemic.
Yeah, you haven't fully recovered yet. Okay, thank you very much, Gianfranco Carbonato. All right. We have a connection to make with Vincenzo Russi. I hope our director managed to get hold of him. Here he is. Buongiorno, Vincenzo. How are you?
Buongiorno, Carlo. Morning,
Buongiorno.
everybody.
Buongiorno. Allora, let me introduce Vincenzo Russi, who has been operating ICT, Information Communication Technology, for many years and has been dedicated to management consultancy and business management for over 20 years. He's the co-founder and CEO of eNovia, the enterprise factory. So he doesn't really build parts for a vehicle. He builds companies in a way. And they've gone through more than 30 entrepreneurial projects in the past years. So this is very interesting because it's another viewpoint. We're having completely different viewpoints today. How did you take on the pandemic, and how was the reaction of your company?
So thanks, Carlo. So first of all, we are not creating a component as eNovia for vehicles, but our companies, our enterprises that we are creating, they are doing that. It means, or they are doing vehicles too. And I would like just to spend some seconds on eNovia. As you said, we are an enterprise factory. And so as an enterprise factory, it means that we transform ideas in inventions and inventions in enterprises. So we are not an incubator or accelerator. That's very important because we create companies since the idea. And as a factory, we have two foundries. The first foundry is the invention foundry, where we collect ideas from universities, from any other source of ideas, and we transform this in prototypes. And so the second one is the enterprise foundry, where we transform this technology in an enterprise and the researchers in entrepreneurs. So we are focusing on deep tech. Deep tech is a new term that has been created in California in order to present the companies that are working on exploiting the combination of digital and mechanical dynamic physics. So it's an industry that is demonstrating a strong resilience in this pandemic era. And as you said, we created till today, in 5 years, just 5 years, we have 5 years, 31 industrial projects. So related to your question, and so how we see in this during this pandemic era the trend of automotive. For sure, we have to. What we are seeing is that we need to split in a short medium term and in a medium long term. In the short medium, what we are seeing that is exploding the private mobility. And probably this is the reason why I'm not there, because this morning, just to leave from my house to outside Milan, I spent more than 1 hour and a half. So that's the effect of a pandemic situation. I mean, everybody are using the car alone, so not sharing the car with other people. But what we will see very soon, at least we hope, because this cannot continue in this way for a set of reasons that everybody can recognize, is for sure to start and to improve the micromobility. Micromobility is an exploding trend that will be very important and very useful for everybody, and especially if the infrastructure from the urban cities will incentivize the usage of that. So in terms of medium long term, what we will see are robotic vehicles. That is very clear to everybody. We can spend a lot of discussion on that, but this will be a trend that we are very sure that will cover entirely this market. As a consequence of this trend, we will see probably a set of effects. One is the soft mobility that will improve significantly. Soft mobility is a light and ultralight vehicle where e-bikes, I mean electronic bicycles are an example, and other kind of vehicles that everybody are seeing inside the cities. But better, more and more, there will be robotaxi that probably will change our approach to use the cars, and emotional cars that for sure will still remain as a way where we will live and will exchange our relationship with this kind of products. So at the end, 4 areas that are embodying these trends. One area is the energy. The second one is vehicles and the control, the vehicular control system, the logistics, the third one, and the business model. So startups can really can rapidly exploit these trends thanks agility, speed, tech, courage, adaptability.
Yes, I totally agree with the idea of startups being the generators of the innovation and ventures of the futures. Vincenzo, let me start the second round with you. So, since we are connected and remote and we never know how it's going to happen, so let's just keep the connection open with Vincenzo. Let's go to the second part of the question. Is he still connected? Still there? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because I was looking at your data. Two of the startups that you helped start up are dealing with autonomous guide. Since nobody has spoken about that today, I would like to have your viewpoint on this. Are we already ready for that, or are we still way back? How's the situation from your point of view?
So the situation is changing rapidly. That's for sure what I can say. Rapidly, it means in a set of years that are not 10 or 20 years. but probably less, we will change significantly the way in which we will use cars, and we will own cars. This will be a very huge effect. As everybody knows, today we are living with probably more or less a level of autonomous capacity of our cars that are very interesting, that are very much helping our way to use and live in the mobility inside our cities. So what we are seeing in that way, that for sure there will be an effect that there are cars that will move people. These cars, as I said, probably will be more and more robotaxi or something that we like to call in this way. Why? Because obviously this will change significantly the approach, the ownership, and the services that will be provided by the cars. And on the other side, there will be another effect thanks to the autonomous vehicles that today, by the way, are more or less available, and we are creating, we are delivering on the market one of these vehicles that are light autonomous vehicles to move goods. What does mean that? It means that we don't need to reach areas where goods are available, but goods are coming to us. You can read this as e-commerce explosion. And so the effect of pandemic, by the way, is also due to is also demonstrating that e-commerce is becoming something that will change significantly also our usage of our cars. So it means at the end that we will have a set of cars that we will use just on demand. And so these cars will have completely different dimensions, cost. Dimension, I mean, there will be probably small cars. Cost, there will be a very high cost car. In terms of technology, they will adopt or encapsulate a lot of technology. And on the other side, we will have a light vehicle, as you are seeing probably in this video, that will move goods. And thanks to this approach, we will reduce significantly also the impact of the situation of our cities, like today Milan, as I said, that is impossible to live with a traditional car in that approach. So our vision is to have in a very short time frame, considering that the automotive industry is more or less the same during the last 120 years, more or less. And so in a very short time frame versus these 120 years, we will see significantly changes that will impact entirely the industry. So the position and the ability of companies, small companies like startup, could be seen to accelerate this process and to allow everybody, also very big player, to adopt and adapt themselves to these new trends. I hope that I addressed your question.
Yes, you did. The vehicle we were looking at while you were talking is very nice. Reminds me very much of Star Wars, but it's a little bit. But very nice. And of course, there's also a lot of space for design and for engineering and for, it's a very interesting area that is opening up. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And is that your motorcycle in the back? Or
Yeah, motorcycle and bicycle, both of them, they have a lot of electronic with artificial intelligence inside in order to control dynamic of these vehicles.
Okay, so if I may give you a suggestion, next time you have to take a vehicle to go all the way to Turin, take your bike instead of the car.
Yeah. Okay. An autonomous vehicle, probably is better.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you, Carlo. Thank you, everybody.
And we're back to Marco Rollero instead for the second round. Allora, we said tactical the first part, strategical the second part. What do you plan to do?
Well, so right now there is this acronym that has been forged that is VUCA word, you know, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So this is how the world is right now and how it's evolving. So flexibility is definitely the name of the game. We need to be flexible, and this is very difficult for an industry that has been built and conceived on huge platforms, high number, very reliable. I mean, we can argue about the forecast on the automotive industry not being very accurate, but let's go to aerospace, let's go to electric business, is much more vague than in the automotive. So, of course, to run for big numbers on platforms, you need to run efficiently to saturate your production line, and therefore you need to have certainty about the capital that you have to invest just to keep the profitability. So the first change will be definitely flexibility becomes more agile.
You were talking about before about making the supply chain shorter. That's another innovation. What do you plan to do on that? How do you make a supply chain shorter?
I mean, basically, it was very fashionable before to go best cost country and to have supply chains that are like, 16 weeks long and more. And now, if you have a very erratic forecast to react in a short time, when you have a 16 weeks pipeline to be filled in, it becomes very challenging. So, to have a proximity warehousing, to have closer suppliers, and so on and so forth.
At the same time, once there are so many different vehicles, because we're talking about diesel, gasoline, the supply chain becomes more complicated because there's many more parts in the process.
Definitely, and when we are talking about VUCA, as I said before, there are events that are accelerating this. I mean, 5 years ago is the anniversary, unfortunate anniversary for the automotive industry, that is the Dieselgate. This was accelerating the decrease of diesel. I mean, we were at 52% share. In Italy right now, we are running at 37%. And COVID is another one. I mean, right now is really key to determine where to put your money. And in an uncertain world, it's very difficult. So, opportunities in the automotive industry, the two mega trends, autonomous, and this is additive to the business. So it's not a replacement. So there are many opportunities for adjacent, sensor, cameras, LiDAR, everything, you name it. So it's also good for new entrants. Electrification is a different game. Electrification is a different game because, of course, to some extent, is a replacement business, to some extent. Names like Saab, I took few notes. Saab, Pontiac, Mercury, they are not existing anymore. And right now, it's not only Tesla disruptive. You have Byton, you have NIO, Lucid, BYD, I mean, Chinese guy, build your dreams. I mean, this is the name of a company, build your dreams. And those companies in the last years, in the recent years, they had relatively poor financial performance, but their market capitalization is skyrocketing because the enthusiasm of the market, the expectation of the market is exactly there. What Eaton does, I mean, Eaton is a $20 billion company with $3 billion in VG, vehicle, and in powertrain. So, as my friend of FEV, we are not in the perfect storm. We are in the core of the perfect storm on powertrain. So we need to manage this transition well. So as Eaton is at $10 billion, I mean, out of the 20 billions, 10 is electric, we are just managing the transition to electrify. So we still refine the combustion engine, but we transit to electrification, where we plan to have $3 billion by 2025. One thing, there are 1.4 billion of cars circulating in the globe, okay? And we are producing right now between 80 and 90 millions. So even if you just replace one-to-one with an electrified vehicle, you need at least 16 years.
Gorlier
and I mean, this is not something, and I mean, the world is not only Los Angeles, Paris, but there is also, you know, Mombasa, and I mean, it's, okay, so when we're talking about combustion engines, this is today still the only engine that is transforming the energy inside. It's not storing the energy from somewhere else. And therefore, the challenge that we have are about network of electric network and energy manufacture and delivering at the right place. So issues that we have in the auto industry. We are a high capitalized industry, of course, and we have been educated to productivity forever. And productivity forever works only when the volumes keeps going up. Okay, and right now we are dealing with this. Pietro was mentioning about a potential social impact in terms of employment, because the takt time of producing a car is much smaller. About opportunities instead. We have proven in the automotive industry to be the most progressive industry historically in taking challenges and modifying. There are many existing sectors that will grow. For instance, car handling will not suffer from, you know, an electrification. It will be, you know, in good shape anyway. And I mean, we are anyway a trendsetter for the industry, for all the employment. If you look at it, for instance, Tesla right now is looking to open a mega factory in Germany. So, I mean, cars will be always produced in a place where large employment is needed.
I see your optimism. Thank you very much. Let's pass on to Pierpaolo Antonioli, Punch. We mentioned the fact that Punch is a multinational. It came to Italy, came to Piemonte actually. No, you're in Torino or close by? Torino.
Downtown.
So what are the plans of Punch and your plans with Punch for the foreseeable future?
Okay, thank you. But, first of all, I would like to say why Punch decided to invest in Italy, because when we look to the last years, several companies were leaving from Italy. And okay, the first answer will be because CHAPE, the Piemonte agency, did a very good job to promote the territory. And this is in part true, in the sense that one of the reasons why a multinational company decided to invest in Italy and then in Torino is because you find really an heritage. The heritage is not enough. Heritage means that you have an industrial manufacturing groups you can produce, but you have also a very strong supplier chain. And also, and this is an example, you have also a lot of international companies that in part are also represented here, national and international parts are there, that are present in Italy, are present in Torino, are present in this territory, that can really work in an international environment to support someone that wants to invest into the automotive. And the automotive industry is still one of the main industrial, let me say, realities that are bringing a lot of money and are moving really a lot of money. So it's a very important asset that we need to keep. The fact that Punch invested here in Torino was really part of a strategy. And the strategy is really to invest, first of all, in the brain. And in Torino, in Punch Torino, we have around 700 and more engineers that are doing product development using the most advanced technologies. And most advanced technologies today, if you want to manage, for example, tomorrow, the compact hydrogen ecosystem are represented by system capability, integration capability of components, supplier development, and also a lot of software and controls. Half of the people that I have in Torino are developing software and controls. Just for your information, this can be strange, but I am launching now 2 new companies that will really go live in October. One dedicated to the micromobility, and the other dedicated to medical diagnostic. You can say, what does it mean this? Why? Medical diagnostic and micromobility? Yes, because a lot of the technologies that are in those 2 areas are coming from automotive. And they are using, for example, artificial intelligence, both of them. So it means that automotive is still a sector that can develop further the industry and where if you invest correctly, you can really run a lot of adjacent business. So this is one, for sure, of the reason why a Belgian group that could have invested in Germany, could have invested in a lot of other places, and is also investing there, is also investing here in Italy. The other thing is what they said. There is the capability, I believe, here in Italy to have that level of flexibility that in a context like that, where there is such a big disruption in the business, you can really adapt very quickly to the new environment and also develop the ideas. We saw Innovia, for example, is an example. The two companies that I'm launching started as a startup incubated internally. But then we have also the academy, we have also the university, we have the Politecnico in Torino, but also in the other areas where we have a very strong collaboration. So the strategy for Punch in Italy is a strategy of product development that is starting from what exists today, that is the current industry that we have in Europe, made by diesel, gasoline, and supplier chain, and to bring this kind of supplier chain and industry to the next level, where for us the next level is really what is passing from internal combustion engine and is moving to fuel cell, to internal combustion engine using hydrogen. This requires a lot of intelligence, a lot of development, a lot of R&D investment, but also a lot of activities with our suppliers. And we can find really this supplier in Italy, but these suppliers, also because there is a strong presence of international suppliers here, is also connected to the rest of Europe. And so this is why, at the end, we choose Torino really as the center for product development of the whole group. At the beginning, you presented me, you introduced me as the CEO of Punch Torino. In reality, I have another most important role, that is, if you want, is new. I am at corporate level of Punch Group responsible for all the product development of the group that include, for sure, diesel, for sure, software and electronics, transmission, hybrids, and a lot of other stuff that we are producing. So we are integrating here in Torino all these products. Then manufacturing can be in different places, and hopefully we also have manufacturing here in Italy sometime.
We have to wish you good work. There's going to be a lot of
and a lot of luck.
A lot of work. A lot of work to be done. Back to Roberto Avassori, Brembo, brakes. We mentioned when we had that briefing by phone the other day that you won the Compasso d'Oro. Now, is that? Yes, do I remember well? Yes, yes. Yeah. That was a smile of pride. Compasso d'Oro is a very prestigious design award. And it kind of sounds strange that you have a design award given to a manufacturer of brakes, which are usually sort of hidden. Now, I mean, the sports car, show them with pride sometimes. That's interesting, though.
That's interesting and goes back directly to what we heard this morning about bringing passion back to the car, to a vehicle, emotion, and good design, of course. And these are all things that Italians do better than many others in the world. And we normally say in our company that if it is working perfectly, it has to be beautiful. And this is something that goes much hand in hand with our industrial know-how, because I may say that we have also beautiful industrial machines in our plants, and let's say it is something that, as Pierpaolo said, we need to use as a hub, not let's say sitting on our laurels, not looking at the past, but developing from the past to this sort of new renaissance. You asked before about the future perspectives. Well, we may consider it from different angles. At a micro level, the company level, we will continue certainly to try to be relevant to our customers, whichever the material of brakes, whichever the shape, whichever the propulsion. And the one product that won the Compasso d'Oro this year is, in fact, one brake caliper for Formula E, so an all-electric vehicle already. But we are also becoming a software company. Few of us or many of us know that in a car today there is much more software than in the latest airplane. In our 100 in average ECUs in a car, we have 2.5 times the software that one modern Airbus is using to fly. We are not
really?
Absolutely.
But
You probably
yeah. Well, it's quite some news.
Absolutely, yes. And this is to say that, as Pierpaolo and Marco said, automotive is certainly a generator of innovation. In Europe, the highest number of patents every year are registered by automotive companies. And this is also why automotive is so relevant to Italy and to Europe. It has, the automotive chain has the highest multiplying factor for capital and employment. And the Chinese friends learned this very quickly and very well. And indeed, they are now the biggest producer of cars in the world. They will remain like that for a good part of these 100 years. But we now have in Europe the opportunity to go back to our roots and invest in innovation to continue the leading experience that Europe had in the world until now. Otherwise, if we try to mimic simply what others are doing, it will be a loss, a total loss.
Thank you very much, Roberto Vavassori. And let's go back to our friend FEV. What now? What now? We're on the verge of a big change. How is FEV going to go into this change? What is your contribution?
Yeah, so as we are working for our customers, our changes is following the change of the world. So therefore, allow me to give an answer what change we are expecting. I sent you 3 slides which maybe support such an answer.
Abbiamo le slide, let me say in Italian, so maybe it's quicker communication. Se abbiamo le slide, eccole, here they are.
Maybe. Yeah, this is the third one. Can you go
back to the... Potete tornare alla seconda, alla prima?
I saw many faces.
Is this okay? This one?
Yeah, okay, we keep that one. So I saw many faces here known, but not everybody knows FEV. And as we are doing engineering, this means we are working like a development department of a OEM. And what we see, I have 3 messages. One major trend is absolutely clear. All of us are saying this. We are moving to intelligent mobility. We are talking about autonomous driving, but autonomous driving is only a part of this intelligent mobility. We are talking about a grid connection, V2X, this is shown here on that slide, yeah? Vehicle to grid, vehicle to vehicle. We are developing things. You sit in one car, and because every car has a camera, from your car, you see what the car in front of you is seeing in front of that car. Yeah? Such technologies will come. You will press a button on your smartphone and your car will come from the supermarket. When you're going to the exit, the car will drive by itself. And many things, so the car will become extreme, let me say, smartphone on wheels, something like that. This is the direction we are moving. And you also said software company, also FEV, we are moving to becoming partly also a software company. So this is one part of the world, and this will happen. We need hundreds of thousands of software engineers. This will change significantly, and all technology will be much more driven by software than by hardware as before. So, and this will end up in products which are very nice. Yeah, the car has so much here, infotainment systems, many nice features we will see in the cars. Cloud connectivity. You have the navigation system in direct connection, downloading the newest maps and thousands of beautiful things.
It's going to take an engineer not only to project the cars, but also to drive one.
I'm enthusiastic with all these technologies as they will
go back to school, and because most of us use the except for the kids, most of us use the smartphone for just a part, a little part of the capability. probably it's going to happen the same thing. You're going to have to go back to school to learn how to not drive a car.
With the newest vehicles already today, you can open and close the doors via smartphone. Your wife is calling you from Palermo, saying, "I'm standing in front of the car."
What is my wife doing in Palermo?
Yeah, I don't know.
Hold on.
I lost my key, and you can say by smartphone, "Okay, I open the car for you." Things like that will come. So this is intelligent mobility. If you move to the next slide, this is a propulsion system topic. As you see on the left side, battery electric vehicles, this for sure, we all know, will come with high market share. 30% of all new cars will be battery electric in 2030, or even more, 35. On the right side, you see plug-ins. This is what everybody also is talking about today. You have a plug, you can drive 50 kilometers or 60, but you still have a combustion engine in the lead. One scenario, I don't want to say it will really come like that, but one scenario is the battery will become larger and larger. We are talking about 100-kilometer driving range with these cars. Then, in this cars, the combustion engine is in the lead, and the electrical driveline is in second row, from power, from driving range. That may change. Also with these cars, the electric drive will go in the lead. So you will have a battery electric vehicle with a combustion engine to support the long distance. But anyhow, however it will come, we will have battery electric vehicles and we will have hybrids with any form of combination. Frau Stupenengo today talked about their products. It's impossible. Yeah? We need combustion engines in this. We need combustion engines in large trucks. We need.
She was talking about hydrogen.
Yeah, will also happen. But as larger it becomes, as more you need a combustion. Power. Also in planes. Yeah, it's not a combustion engine, but a combustion process. We need fuel, and this is what you see on the right side. On the top, I wrote e-fuels only. And to be honest, this is something which is making me absolutely sad. We are working on that since 25 years. We have the solution on the desk. And we know we need to move significantly to electrification. FEV invested in the largest battery testing center last year. So we are committed to electrification. But some numbers. 80 million new cars will be sold this year. 84 last year. We have 1.3 billion vehicles, passenger cars, light duty in the world. And what we are driving from politics are only the new sales. And this is coming in homeopathic volume to the market. We have to change the existing fleet on CO2. Otherwise, we will never achieve Paris climate target. We have a team did some calculation. If we move to electrification only, and it is maybe 90% of all new cars in 2045 electric, we will nevertheless, by factor 2, not achieve the Paris target. We need such fuels, and we know how to make them. We take the solar energy, we take CO2 from air capture. I can give you a long presentation on that, but what I'm saying is, it is possible to take the sun. The Chinese are saying it's liquid sun. Yeah? We take the sun energy, we take the wind energy, and we create a fuel which you with your personal car, maybe you have an old-timer, 15 years old, you can, or 20 or 30 years old, you can fill in this and you are on zero CO2. And this is why I'm saying I'm sad. Politicians in Italy, Germany, Brussels are not pushing that. They are pushing only electrification. And by this, we will not achieve the climate targets. This is a big pain, and this is something I believe Pier Paolo agrees. Yeah, this is something we have to change. And looking on the future for IVV, it's very nice to develop all these technologies, but this is something I have really a personal, and IVV company is really fighting for that. But the reaction by the people making the political decisions is going in the wrong direction. They are asking, they will come this or next week. Somebody showed it in the presentation today. They will come with an additional requirement for even more electrical vehicles. And they still forget that. Really a big problem.
Okay, I hear your passionate stance for a different view on the future. What you said was very interesting. Different fuels which may go in old cars. Interesting. Daniele Franceschini. Allora, 5G, the future, the possibility of having connections which are like that, instant. I suppose that this is an important part of development of TIM. Tell us about that and tell us about the future as you foresee it.
Okay, good. So first of all, as I said before, we think that we start from the platform that we have today, that is the fixed mobile that starts from 4G. But in order to leverage on the capabilities of catalyzing the different possibilities of the different vectors, of course, we need to have an enabling platform that in some way is able to satisfy the needs and the requirements on the different verticals that we have. And before, the previous speaker has shown a very interesting scenarios of intelligent transportation. And in that sense, you see that you have the car that is like a device that interacts with a lot of things, a lot of stuff. And you need a smart enabling platform that is able to connect all together. All this stuff creates value. And we do think that it's not only a matter of connectivity, but is a matter of bringing together the capability, of course, of the tech evolution that, as I said before, is a trigger for the digital transformation, but is also an instrument. And then all the stuff related to the automotive and the transformation, the car as the heart of this kind of scenarios, in which in some way, together with the artificial intelligence that was mentioned, and also the data analytics, we needed to create value for the different scenarios. And then we have the connected vehicle scenarios, the smart transportation, and so on and so forth. When we speak of that, to create a platform that from connectivity brings together the different possibility of the verticals. And so automotive is one of the most important one. The reason why is that automotive is in the manufacturing, automotive is for transportation, for the smart city, and so is really the heart of a lot of these scenarios and that will improve the life of our customers and all the citizens. In order to do this, we need to change also, to transform also the mind, the culture mind. Because, of course, we need a new skill. We need a cloudification of the network, of course, but also to rethink also let me say, the car as a service in some way in order to be connected to all the other stuff. And this is a cultural change, first of all. And another lesson that we learn from the digital transformation is that it's very difficult to adopt the same supply chain that we have today, the traditional one.
We were mentioning that before.
Yes, you mentioned, and I think it's a key point. The ecosystem should be very open. Open innovation, like in Turin we have the Team Open Innovation Lab, because we believe that the design and the innovation should be brought together to in the different ecosystem by different partners that work together from the beginning, from universities, stakeholders, partners, manufacturers, and so on and so forth. And of course, this is something that should involve in some areas also the public administration. This morning, our chairwoman, Mrs. Appendino, mentioned some of initiative that was performed in the previous years here in Turin, in particular the Turin Smart Roads or Turin City Lab. We participated as team with here with the Comune of Torino, just to create this kind of experience, in which we experienced some use cases in relation to control of the traffic, autonomous vehicles, and so on and so forth. So we do think that also this part related to the new supply chain, a new way of creating ecosystem is one key aspect.
What about 5G? How far are we from 5G?
We do think that 5G is already started. We launched.
Because Apple is using already 6G.
Yes, yes, of course.
Okay, Apple are always ahead, but
yes.
You know.
5G, as we say, is a complex word. Of course, we have already launched 5G. 5G could enable different, let me say.
For autonomous vehicles, it's fundamental.
It's fundamental. It's fundamental. But as I was saying, in the 5G, you have different, let me say, network services. You have enhanced mobile broadband. And for the enhanced mobile broadband is something, the mobile internet is something that is already a big reality with 4G. And 4G is the first 5G radio interface from that perspective. But then you have all the, let me say, ultra-reliable application, like the autonomous vehicle or all the drone control. That, of course, requires a lot of innovation in relation to the implementation of this platform that it's needed to do that. So you have connectivity, but you have on top all the stuff related to an intelligence that is pervasive and controls all the ecosystem. That's the reason why you need to work together in this kind of stuff. And the path was started because we launched this first step. But we are working a lot on innovation in order to make it possible that this path is made together, creating value for all the stakeholders that could, let me say, use this network, slicing a piece of that in order to satisfy the requirements, with a global efficiency and more performance.
Molto bene. Thank you, Daniele. We are at the Gianfranco Carbonato, last one of the panel. You have a big responsibility to close our panel and our morning. We're on time. So, what does your company see for the foreseeable? Oh, you talked a little bit about being in a hard moment, a little bit of decline. I heard several times talking about the fact of making vehicles lighter, less heavy. Are you into? Is this a part of the future for your company, since you're dealing exactly with that?
So thank you, Carlo. Thank you to our audience. They must be exhausted. But no, let me say that we are looking in a quite optimistic way to the future, I have to say. First of all, I would like to thank our colleague from FEV to have brought the discussion to the real world. Because, of course, we have a dream in front of us, autonomous vehicles, all electrified in 2050 or whatever, but we have to arrive alive to that day. No? And this means that our industries have to continue to work, have to produce, our employees have to be occupied, and so on and so forth. So why I am optimistic? Two reasons. The first is that we have a technology which is the laser technology, which is a fantastic technology for manufacturing, because it's flexible, and the world requires flexibility, it's fast, very productive today, totally changed from 20 years ago. And there are very few companies worldwide that have this technology. We are the only one in Italy to have the technology. There are probably 10, 12 companies worldwide with this technology. And this made allow a lot of different types of manufacturing. Take in motor cars. In motor cars, you mentioned vehicles must become lighter, but they must be safer.
Of course.
And so to do this, technologies like carbon fiber or aluminum are too expensive for mass cars. They are good for niche cars, but not for mass cars. So what is the solution today? Solution is high-strength steel. And high-strength steel is so strong that cannot be cut with mechanical tools. They require lasers. We have probably 1,000 machines worldwide cutting parts, mainly of the frame of the car body, with lasers. But also the shape of the body, I mean the panels, to make trimming dies costing a fortune that require a lot of maintenance is stupid. Today you can, with the laser, you can cut without a die. You change a program and you change the part. Simple, no? And take welding for lasers. Batteries. We have discussed a lot about batteries, but batteries require a lot of welding. And laser is the only way of making welding possible for batteries.
I'm sorry, I'm really curious. Since we're mentioning batteries, and since I saw your graphics of a car full of batteries, it's like heavier the batteries than the car. Are we close to what is called the solid-state battery, the little battery that will give incredible performances, or not? No. No? No.
Hello? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are not close, but we are working on cell chemistry, we are working on integration. In a battery you have cells, you have modules, this is the next. In one module you have several cells, and then you have several modules in one pack. So what we are developing is the chemistry of the cells, so this is improving by different components. So the pack will be with the same kilogram, you will get more electrical energy. Okay. This will happen, but it will not happen that it's half the weight in 5 years. It will not change with that speed.
I saw pictures of these very, very small batteries used for the Internet of Things and for other things, and which seemed like a possible solution, but you're telling me it's not?
For sure, we are moving in this direction. Yeah? We are developing different cell chemistries, and by that, the electrical energy by cell weight. Solid, but solid it's also solid is chemical. So the solid state will come. The current problem with the solid state is that you cannot charge it as fast as you can charge the lithium ion. And when I ask here the auditorium, everybody will say, what is the problem of the electric vehicle? I cannot charge it fast enough. So message is, it will improve year by year, but we will not in 5 years have such a battery for 1,000 kilometers.
Okay, wrap this up because we're over time, and this was my personal question. Finish, please, Gianfranco.
Okay. A couple of things and then I have gone. The other point that I would like to mention about laser application is additive manufacturing. We are involved in that business. We have started investing there a few years ago. Additive manufacturing is a revolution in the manufacturing field, and it's made with lasers because it gives a flexibility. It gives the possibility of reducing the number of parts to make the part lighter. It's a real booming opportunity for our industry. Last but not least, I have to say, just to bring a little bit of optimism to this conclusion, is that I just received a few days ago the forecast from CECIMO. CECIMO is the European Association of the National Industrial Association for Machine Tools and Capital Goods. Okay. And they predict a V-shape with a quite significant growth for 2021. So the forecast is the market will grow again, which is consistent with what I said before, that there are cycles, 7, 8 years of good cycle and 2, 3 years of bad cycle. Well, the bad cycle was started 2.5 years ago already.
So it's going to end sooner or later.
It's time to recover, and it's time to grow again. That's my conclusion.
Thank you very much. Okay, this is the end of the second panel. Before I thank all the participants and wish you a good day, let me say that I saw that there's an electronic sort of folder that was probably sent to you. Where's the camera? There. that was probably sent to you by mail, but if you want to recover it, it looks a little bit like this, but if you want to recover it, there's really a lot. Is this the end? There's really a lot of information. There's really a lot of information. So you can find it on Italy. Let me see better with the glasses, sorry. Italy.vehicle meetings, like VTM, vehiclemeetings.com. There you will find a lot of information, also a lot of information on the Piemonte agency, which makes it easier and gives a hand for people to invest in the Piemonte region. The Piemonte region was hosting our meeting today. Piemonte region, let me just spend a word to say that this is a great place, to come and put your company and everything, but also it's a great place at large. Food here is really incredible, and also the sightseeing is really great. You have you go almost down to the sea, but you go all the way up to the Alps. So it's a wonderful region. If you don't know it, it's worthwhile to get some information on Piemonte. Let me thank once more Marco Rollero, Pierpaolo Antonioli, Roberto Vavassori, Corinne de Bilbao, who was connected by her videotape, Norbert Alt, Oscar Albin Santos, who was connected from Mexico, Daniele Franceschini, Gianfranco Carbonato, and Vincenzo Russi, who was connected from somewhere in the world, who didn't take his bikes, but used the car, and so couldn't make it here all the way. One thing, at 2:30, you will be connected, if you're interested, with all the Verticals webinars that are going on here in another part of Teatro Reggio. So the program is on vehiclemeetings.com, as I was saying before. So if you're interested in vertical webinars, they are about to start. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for the information, for the vision, for the excitement of thinking about the future. Buon pranzo. Have a good meal. Have a good lunch to everybody who waited until the end. Thank you very much. And we'll see you hopefully next year. Thank you. Grazie a tutti.